Hello, listeners and readers of AwardsWatch.com. This is the Awards Watch Podcast, episode 246. The executive editor, Ryan McQuade. Joining me today is our associate editor, Sophia Ciminello,
Hi, everyone.
and Josh Parham.
Hello, hello.
We are here to do another Oscar retrospective. First time outside of sort of the modern era. We're doing the films of 1979, which should be fun. The 52nd Academy Awards is what we're doing. Are you guys excited about this?
I can't wait. I love the 70s, my favorite decade in cinema history. 79 is also a fascinating year for film. And I mean, some of our greatest classics are represented at the Oscars in some way, shape, or form. So, yeah, I'm really excited to talk about it. And like you said, go outside of the modern era and far back in time.
Yeah, I love these episodes, to be honest. I love the Oscar retrospectives because I actually have a document of my personal ballot for many years. So I kind of have already done this just on my own free time. So I just love an excuse to actually talk about the an obsession that I already have.
I was going to say, I thought Josh was about to say that he has a document already of our winners already for this
No,
show. And I was like,
I'm not
I was
that
like,
obsessed.
I'm like, Josh, you want to just keep that running tally? You can go right on ahead and do
No,
so.
because some of those winners I violently disagreed with. So
Fair. Um, Hopefully we're in a more agreeable terms today when we talk about 1979. I did want to get an update on everyone's favorite thing here at Awards Watch, the summer movie box office draft. So at the time of recording, we don't have this weekend's box office, so I only am going off of the numbers from the start of the month. But it's close-ish. My team has roughly close to $2 billion worth of everything. And just to let everybody and remind everyone, we got rid of the multiplier based off of the way summer was going. We'll have to figure out a certain way for that down the road to, maybe kind of put in per screen average or something. I don't know. We're going to figure something out with the numbers, but time recording, based off of last week's numbers, we have about a $600 million lead over Erik. But there's this little movie called Deadpool and Wolverine that's making still a crap ton of money. These Minions and Riley's Brain have made a lot of money as well. Um, there was a Purple Crayon that released this past a couple weeks ago. There was People Flew to the Moon. Don't know if anybody saw about that. And now we're in flop era, I guess, because this past weekend we had Borderlands, which honestly should have been a bomb pick in retrospective. Looks like it is one of the worst movies of the year, even with a D plus cinema score, which is bad. And then there's this little movie that we all should have probably saw. Maybe we wrote it off. It's making a crap ton of money. And it's the Colleen Hoover adaptation of It Ends With Us.
Mhm.
Um, Once again, Reese Witherspoon's produced films just making an absolute cottage industry at the box office for Southern Girlies. So I don't know if we are going to have to evaluate that as a franchise going forward, but like, I mean, between like what, like Crawdads and this and other stuff that Reese has adapted, they make money and people want to see stuff like this, right?
Well,
and I'm
Colleen
happy.
Hoover. Oh, go ahead.
I'm just happy that a movie like that actually is making money. I haven't seen it, so I can't speak to the quality, but it just looks like a regular kind of adult drama. And I'm sorry, but no matter what, I'm going to be happy that that makes money at the box office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sophia?
I feel similarly, and I haven't seen it yet either, but it's been funny. Like I just looked at some screenings in my area because I think we sometimes think like, oh, these will be big with suburban moms in the Midwest or in the South, but in New York too, like screenings were full. And, women want to go to the movies, but also Colleen Hoover is kind of her own
She's a
industry
juggernaut.
altogether.
Yeah.
Like people love those books. I have not read any of them, but I know that they're
Sophia.
popular, especially on Book Talk, which is its own thing too.
Yeah, that is a huge thing. And I know that there's like, and there like a few controversies or stuff with her books or whatnot,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
just like, but also people don't give a shit. They're gonna go see this stuff anyway if they like it, and clearly because like people don't give a shit about a certain author and her views, and yet they dress up as freaking wizards all around the world. So like people
Oh,
don't care. They like
No,
freak me
yeah.
out. Yeah.
if people like a book, they're gonna go see the movie. It's just kind of how it is. Doesn't make it right, but it
Yeah.
just is what it is. And this is proving that right in here. Even with
Another huge movie of the summer really is Longlegs. I know
yeah,
Dan brought that up on the episode, but that had, I mean, it's now outgrossed Parasite for Neon's highest grossing film. It's
you know,
doing very well compared to other horror films and has long legs. Sorry.
It
yeah,
made more money than Furiosa,
yeah.
which I
It
mean,
doesn't
I was skeptical a little bit about Furiosa. I would never have been that pessimistic about that movie's box
it
office.
doesn't speak to the quality of both films because one's really good and the other one's long legs, um but yes, I mean it is a good thing. And also it proves that I think if you put a really strong marketing campaign behind something, I know this is not a joke. Like if you put a
No,
strong marketing campaign behind a movie and it genuinely people will want to see it, horror is a genre that does really well. Even Trap has done pretty well, considering it's like last weekend, even though like that's not a horror movie, that's a comedy.
I love
Um, and well, like we had Maxine, and I guess A Quiet Day Part One kind of counts as, or Day One or whatever, kind of counts as like a horror action movie or whatever.
well, it
But
is a horror movie. Yeah,
yeah, I was gonna say,
it's just the
um,
best one of that bunch.
yeah,
No, like
um,
I'm legitimately serious. I saw that movie and I was like, why is this like a real movie?
it's the best one
yeah,
of the
true.
ones
Oh,
I
by
mentioned,
far.
or the
Yeah.
ones that or the of the franchise.
Both.
Okay.
I
I'm
was
with you,
watching that
Josh.
movie and I was like, why am I getting emotional at the end of this?
I think that that's a Sarnowski magic, if that's even a thing that
Oh,
you can
yeah,
He
it
say.
did
is. Because
Yeah.
it was
knock
so funny watching that movie. As I was watching it, I was thinking, was this like another script that they had that they retrofitted into a Quiet Place sequel? Because this is
Yes.
just so much better in terms of character and story. And I got to the end and I saw Sarnowski's name as the sole writer, and it's like, okay, that's why. Because they
Well,
ditched
this
the other people that wrote these movies and got a
well
real writer to do it.
well the first writer that was attached to it, I don't know if he still has a story credit, and he should, was actually Jeff Nichols. So if you want, either one of those two get credit for the idea of kind of branching this off, which is funny because like he was going to literally make a Jeff Nichols movie in it, and they were like, no, thank you. So then they gave it to Sarnowski, and he made a Michael Sarnowski film. So it's it was going to make money either way. It's just like
Yeah.
which kind of auteur do you want to put behind your franchise filmmaking? But yeah, I mean, and then yeah, we're living in the Deadpool shadow, the $1.5 billion film that is Inside Out 2. No one saw that coming. The Minions are still
Truthfully, not even
minioning.
us. Like,
No,
let's
like
be
I mean,
real.
like we
Like, we think it'll be good.
yeah, like
Yeah.
we picked it with our second pick, and we're like, I think it'll be all right. And because I thought, and we thought the two obviously easy picks were Despicable Me and Deadpool Wolverine. And it seems that both of those are doing very good, and I think Deadpool will do still very good, and it could get closer and closer as we get towards the end of this. But yeah, Inside Out 2, I would have never expected a
Yeah.
resurgence from that. We just got a crap ton of announcements out of D23 for more sequels, and but also original films from Pixar. So they clearly are like, we are gonna kind of mix it up. We're gonna give you some new stories about the Incredibles, um and we're gonna give you a new Toy Story movie, and we're gonna give you all these things. But then we have Elio, and we have Hoppers, and we have all these other things as well too. So they're kind of back, and I think we can trust them as with Elemental and the strong legs that had, and then now Inside Out 2. They're back to being sort of the kings of the box office, which is
Well, let's see
a
how the
good
original
thing.
stuff goes. I want to wait on that because I mean, Inside Out 2, a sequel to a very popular movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
Elemental had legs, but it still didn't make the money that they would have wanted to.
No, it didn't
So
make
I am
1.5 billion, you know.
yeah, I'm still nervous that Pixar Disney is going to just still double down on sequels. I mean, Toy Story 5, we're getting. And
Here,
I don't know.
here's the thing. I'm not doubting it. I'm never gonna doubt it because
Well, I don't doubt the money.
every time I watch a Toy Story movie, makes me cry. I love them. They can
Even
and
four?
even four, love
Okay.
four, and an Incredibles movie. It's
Sorry,
Brad
I did
Bird.
not like Incredibles 2.
It's Brad Bird
Thought that
making a
was bad.
movie. I'm not
And I
gonna. I'm
love
not.
Incredibles. That's my favorite
Yeah,
Pixar film. But
mine too,
I
Josh.
sat down and watched that movie and felt like we waited 14 years to basically just get The Incredibles again.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, like, it's weird that we haven't had a Brad Bird movie in a while and he's been developing it. So I'm not going to say no to getting new Brad Bird and maybe it's something different. And I feel like if that
Well,
moves the story further than what Incredibles 2 did, because I felt like that was just like literally like deleted scenes from the first one, it felt like. So like we'll see how that story moves forward. But um it's exciting. I don't know. Sophia, thoughts on two more Frozen films?
Oh, you know,
Because you're the
Frozen.
biggest Olaf fan I know.
Oh
So
my God. That's so funny that you say that. You know that Olaf is just probably one of the most annoying characters to me in all of the Disney universe. But I'm always a bit cynical when it comes to these sequels because I just don't think we need them. I think about some of my favorite films growing up that were animated and none of them had sequels, or if
no,
they
they're just
did,
getting
they
made
were,
into live action movies now.
straight to VHS. But these will make a lot of money. I'm
Yeah.
sure of it.
Honestly, we kind of it's the terrible reality of where we're at the box office. Now we kind of need movies like these because otherwise studios don't want to make anything. So, you know, in May when we were doing this update, the world looked very bleak. And it took a couple of weeks later, and then Inside Out 2 came out, and they're like, okay, whoo, movies can make $1 billion. They can make a bunch of money. People do want to go to the theater. And then, Minions and Deadpool, and obviously the success of Longlegs, and even, um, the movies that have come out this weekend. It's shown that maybe May is not when people want to go to the movies. Maybe it's actually when summer is supposed to begin, is when people want to go to the movies. And so, yeah, it's looking
well,
good.
I feel like May never used to be the start of
It's
the
just a
summer movie
Marvel thing.
season.
Mhm.
Yeah, because when I was growing up, I remember it was always like Memorial Day, so like at the end of May. But because Memorial Day, that's when schools normally would get out. It's a big summer start to the weekend. But I feel like Marvel was the one that started it at the beginning of May, so everybody followed suit. But outside of that, yeah, nobody really wants to start their summer movie season at the beginning of May. It's usually always been either at the end of the month or into June.
No, for sure. For sure. I just for the purposes also of this game, it helps fit that. But like there's gonna be like but next year I think that there is gonna be a Marvel movie. There's gonna be like three Marvel movies next year. There's gonna be a bunch of stuff. So, you know, they say survive till 25 is the motto in Hollywood, and that's going to be the case. There'll be a ton of stuff also outside of Disney that'll be coming out as well too. So we'll talk about
We can
that
only
more.
hope.
We can only hope. Um, it looked a little bleak, didn't it, Josh? It did look a little bleak.
Yeah, I saw that lineup and it's like this is the future,
This
and I'm
is
Yeah.
not that
yeah.
happy about it.
There was some stuff I was excited about, but then there was some other stuff I was like, get
Well, I
that.
know there's one thing that you're excited about that I'm sorry, Ryan. I cannot join you.
Which one?
It's Mufasa.
Well, I mean, like I'm excited about it because it doesn't look as bad as the 2019 film, and I think that people are being a little. I think
It
people are
looks
not giving
kind
the
of just as
benefit of the
bad.
doubt, and I think that it's it's kind of telling a little bit of some people online, not you guys, but like some other people that are supposed to. We're also supposed to be like a little bit like, hey, let's give it a shot. You know what I mean? It is from
My
Barry
feeling about it
Jenkins.
has been the same from the beginning, is that if we get some more After Suns, if we get some more of Beale Street Can Talks, you know what? I'm fine with it. Like that's the
Yeah.
industry. I don't think that movie looks very good, but if it allows Barry Jenkins to make some more interesting art, then fine. You know, that's the
Hmm.
industry.
I feel the same way.
I
It
don't know.
looks like a Windows screensaver right now, but it could surprise.
Yeah. I'm just hoping for a better time than when the almost like Clockwork Orange experience that was the 2019 film.
Well, it will be
And
better than that.
it will be
Yeah,
better
but
than
like
that.
what a
And so
Guarantee.
bar. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, but that is
That
a
movie was so bad.
that movie made
yes.
like $2 billion, and people loved it, and I don't
Mhm.
understand
Yeah,
that.
because people love The Lion King. That's
Yeah,
why.
Yeah.
that's
They just
fair. And
basically
it was
made
They
a
just
just want to
carbon
see it
copy.
but
again.
that was
Yeah.
copy paste, and this is why like I think it to be an interesting story. You guys know I'm not one for prequels either, but it kind of looks fascinating. Also, if Jenkins is wanting to tell this story, and it does come from, it seems like a very personal place for him, why not give him a shot at it? And it already looks from an emotional standpoint or emoting standpoint out of those animals looks 100 times better than the just
It looks a
blank.
little
Then
better. Let's not go overboard. It
it
looks a
looks
little
better.
better.
It looks better. Like they actually move their mouths and their face, and you can see emotions.
There's a
Like
little emotion. There's a
yeah,
Yeah.
little,
I still
yeah.
think
but
there's only so much you can
There's
do
only so
with
much you can do with
photorealistic
it,
animals
but it's
still.
mhm.
better than what it was before. Which I mean, like it could still be like a middle of the road movie or like a passable movie, and that's fine as long as it makes $1 billion. That's what you really need, because if this movie only makes like $60, then we're not going to get more if Bill Street can talks and stuff like that. So weirdly, again, we all need it to succeed. So
And
yeah, it's
succeed it will, I think.
hopefully
Yeah,
so.
it
It
will.
also is coming out right at Christmas. Like it's counter
Yeah.
programming again for like Inside Out. That was a 90-minute movie. People took their kids in the middle of the summer. This will be probably a 2-hour movie in the middle of the holidays. It's kind of perfect.
It's
So
got the Lion King name on it, so no matter what, people are going to be interested in it.
kids love animals too.
Hmm.
They love animals.
And their parents love the Lion King.
Yeah.
Yep.
Parents love Lin-Manuel Miranda, even though I
God.
don't.
I mean, he
Uh,
is popular though.
he is
Yeah.
damn, yeah, he's damn
He is
popular.
one of those
He's
things
got
where
to go away
online
though.
people dunk on him, but like out in the wild, like people still love what he
I see what you
does.
did there, Josh. I see what you did there out in the wilds. All right. Um, More on the box office and movies and all that stuff to come in the coming weeks. But we're here to talk about the 52nd Academy Awards. We're here to talk about the films of 1979. Of course, none of us were born during that, so I can't ask those normal questions to start off that. If Erik was here, obviously, thriving in 1979, a young Erik Anderson. But let's just ask, what are your thoughts on the overall year? 1979, year of movies. There's some big ones, I think, that we'll talk about here today. I was doing the research. I was watching the movies this past week, in the past week and a half, I guess. And there's some weird movies from this year. There's a lot of weird movies. And there's some downright masterpieces. But to kind of fill in the gaps, this becomes like a harder exercise, I think, because there's not as many films made, obviously, as movies are now. But there's not many, maybe as many great ones as we get maybe nowadays to pick from in terms of diversity, in terms of being able to fill out some of these categories. It got a little tougher as an exercise. Still a fun exercise nonetheless. But I don't know, Josh, what did you think about 1979?
Well, I think that at least just in terms of the Oscar year, I think it's like a decent crop. It also feels very representative of just the year in general in terms of movies that were extremely popular making into the Oscar race. And I totally get why they made the decisions that they did. But I think also just as a year as a whole, the spread is weird because I feel like on the one end, you do actually have some like legit masterpieces that have come out in 79 that have had enduring legacies. And then there's some stuff I look at it and it's like that was fine, but why is this so elevated in the sphere right now? Don't really get it. So, but like a lot of years are like that for sure. And but I think that the peaks of this year are particularly high and very enduring. And that is what I really do enjoy about the year as a whole.
I have to say, I made a mistake because Sophia Ciminello's Soul was developed inside the year of the 1970s because this is where her film taste is. And Sophia loves the 70s.
Yeah.
This is an interesting year also
Mhm.
though, because this is the end of the 70s and you kind of already seeing, I think at least maybe in the Oscars, like Josh is kind of saying the tug and pull between the auteur driven cinema of the 70s and the crowd pleasing get away from this experimental money draining nonsense that would then fill with the Sunday afternoon matinees and then the franchise filmmaking that would come in the 80s. So it feels like this is a great year. Maybe I'm wrong about this, Sophia. Maybe you can fill me in. This feels like a great kind of representation of the influx of 2 decades of film right as we're about to enter the 80s here.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're right. My spirit and soul were alive in 1979. Just it was my past life, I guess. I
I
love
don't
the
know if you guys know
70s.
this. Sophia is actually 80 years old. And
Yes,
she's
I am
immortal.
like it's like the opposite problem of Old, the
Yeah,
M. Night Shyamalan movie. I'm aging in, or like Benjamin
it's
Button.
Benjamin Button
Yeah,
where you were trying to make that joke,
exactly.
but it's okay.
Exactly. But Old is on the mind since I just saw Trap. Anyway, but
Good
yeah, the
movie.
79 is interesting because what we see happen at these Oscars and then the following year are really interesting. It's kind of parallel because we have Kramer versus Kramer, this domestic drama which made so much money. We'll talk about that, beating this technical juggernaut, well, really two of them in All That Jazz and Apocalypse Now. Then we go to the next year and we have Ordinary People beating Raging Bull. So it does mark that transition point a little bit of the types of films that we're going to get into. And also in 1979, we're starting to, I think, see the effects of Jaws and Star Wars. So if you look at the list of movies of what's coming out, of what's making money, we're starting to see that transition into the blockbuster, into the sequel, or a sci-fi film that maybe isn't as highbrow. So I think that's also an interesting place to look. I think you're right. Like if you look at the Oscars, we have some masterpieces that still stand the test of time and that people will cite as some of the best films ever made. And then we have other films that are really underseen or that I had actually just watched for the first time for this exercise. And I think that's a little bit of why I would say it's harder to pull in people for our game that we'll play is that we just don't know these films as well because we weren't alive then. So like for a year like 2014, for instance, I would be able to dig really deep to find a supporting actress because I'd seen all those movies that year. But here, it's like I had to consult people who were alive back then. I had to think a little bit and look at lists and look at what critics were saying at the time to kind of get an idea of where I should go and what I should watch, even though I, as a film lover, am very familiar with the films of the 70s. So I think that also complicates the exercise. It's not that there are less options, it's that we don't know the options as well because we didn't live through it and we have to find them.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the top films of the box office, it is a fascinating 10 because there's one of these Oscar nominees in there for Best Picture, and the rest are franchise filmmaking, which is very different than like what Sophia is saying than it was before. I mean, you have like technically one of the highest grossing films because it was released in 78. In 79 is actually Superman. And then you have movies like The Amityville Horror, Rocky sequel. You have the Star Trek franchise starting, Alien. Then you have Moonraker, which is a Bond film. And then you have
I'd love to
comedy.
hear your guys' thoughts on Moonraker
Oh,
actually when we
Moonraker.
get to the game.
Oh,
I mean, we can talk about it. You want to talk about it right now, Josh? You want to say something
okay.
about
Well,
Moonraker?
look, Moonraker is terrible,
It's bad,
but I have a little bit of a soft spot for it. Mainly
formative.
that is because of Michael Lonsdale. Like I love him. I think I don't like love the character, but he just has a great presence and he's always left an impression on me as the villain. But yeah, it's like silly and ridiculous and for a long time was like one of my least favorite Bond films, but it's one of those that has a weird reputation within the fandom because it's like you either are on board or
Yeah.
you're not. It's very polarizing.
I'm like weirdly like I respect my nostalgia points for it, but I know that this is bad and I can
Yeah.
admit that. Like I can go to Josh and my bond meetings and say that in front of our brethren and be like, "Hey, listen, this is bad, but I like it." You know what I mean? Like I will watch this.
That describes a lot of
Yeah,
Bond movies. I'm not
yeah,
gonna
that
lie.
does.
Even as a
I mean,
super
like
fan,
that just
I'll be honest.
that describes the Roger Moore era for me as I've gotten
Yeah.
older. It's like I will watch this, but I don't really want to. You know what I mean? Like I don't know, Josh, where are you at with Moore? Because I'm like, as I get older, I get away from those
He's
movies.
not my favorite, but
No,
he represents a different kind of Bond
yeah,
that I don't typically go for.
the
But if
counter
you want,
to Connery in every
like if you
way.
want
Yeah.
the lighter stuff, then he's perfect. It's just not usually what I want, but there are some movies of his that I like. Moonraker's not particularly one of them for me, though.
What's his best one for you? Say
Well,
it.
okay, well, technically I would say it is The Spy Who Loved Me.
Yeah, that's what
Hmm.
everybody loves that one.
But for me, I actually, oh God, this is gonna get me so much
Is
hate
it the
from the
man with the
fandom.
golden
I
gun?
know. It's The Man with the Golden Gun.
Yeah, that's a good movie. I like that one.
It
I
has
mean,
issues,
like
but
they all have issues in the Moore era. Sophia's just kind of sitting back and be like, okay,
yeah,
I
No,
really
The Spy Who
unleashed
Loved
two
Me.
nerds.
I've seen many of these. The Spy Who Loved Me, I would pick, and it has the best Bond song.
yeah.
So,
Like objectively speaking, I would kind of say that should be looked at as his best.
It's my
But
number
I
like
like The
three
Man with the
Bond
Golden
song.
Gun. I do.
mm.
Like you
It's like
mentioned on our 74 episode.
it's like my number three Bond song, Sophia. So like
Oh,
that,
really?
yeah, it's in top three.
Carly all day.
Oh, you can't beat Goldfinger. There's just nothing. There's just something
Well,
super.
I
Yeah,
mean, that's
that's
just
true.
Yeah, that's a
That's true.
classic. And then
Well,
this.
that's my favorite Bond movie.
yeah,
Yeah,
oh,
same.
talk. That's a
Yeah.
perfect movie.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, God, can we just talk about Bond movies? No, I'm just kidding.
I'm
We're
waiting
going to talk
for
about
for
1979.
the series, Ryan.
Oh, that would be really fun.
That would be a good. Yeah, I mean, when they ever announce or
Yeah, we
decide
gotta get
to,
Eon to actually
I
like,
mean, like,
stop.
get your come on. Like every other, like we're supposed to be like survive till 25. They have such a God. Don't even get me started. I feel like
Yeah.
at times they should not have this property anymore. But then I think about like Amazon, I guess now would have it, and we would see like one every 2 years, and they would probably not be with any care to them. So it's a frustrating process, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
I like the family legacy of Eon still having it, but like, come on, Barbara, can we just
Yeah,
move on a
like
little
I mean, like
bit?
listen, I love Daniel Craig just as much as the next person, but
Yeah.
like for God's sakes,
The
like you
mourning
did,
period is over. Let's
yeah,
like
like
we need to get going.
he literally said he would like he'd never wanted to make another one of these, and like
He's
like
clearly having more fun playing Benoit
Benoit
Blanc
Blanc,
than
he
he
will
was
do
playing Bond. Like,
by the end
let's
of it, he will do more Benoit Blanc movies than he will in his Bond tenure. He will make at least 3 to 4 more of those because
yeah.
they look fun. Like, oh, I get to like do a silly accent and go to these like exotic locations and don't have to do any stunt work whatsoever. Cool. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Um, but yeah, it's a fascinating kind of look at everything. Um, 52, the 52nd Oscars, Kramer versus Kramer, Best Picture, like Sophia said. I think we should just talk about it now. What do you guys think? We covered this on our draft. I think we put it in the B tier or C tier. That's where we kind of put it. Um, I'd have to look that up real quick and just see where we put it at. But did you guys rewatch this? Sophia, did you
Yeah.
rewatch this one?
I rewatched it again last night, just to prepare for this, and I actually had a better time with it than I did before. I think that the last time I watched it, I was a bit more critical of it. I do still think it is a bit dated. I think that mostly comes down to the screenplay and this whole Mr. Mom is here to save the day idea of the late 70s, which doesn't hold up as much now, but I do think it's really beautifully made, and I think that the performances are pretty fantastic all around. I think that we'll talk about some of those as we get through the categories, but I actually love all four of the nominees from this movie for acting. I think that what's happened to it is interesting in that it's what I'm critical of some other movies that I think I'm a little harsher on with this one, which is just that it beat movies that I find to have held up much better and that are just better movies all around that I love
Yeah.
more. So, but I did enjoy my rewatch. It does feel, though, very attached to 1979
Hmm.
in a way that something like Apocalypse Now or Alien or all that jazz, those movies, I think, kind of transcend the period.
We did put it in the C tier. So
I
that's
think that
where,
might be a little low.
I think
About it
so. I
now.
think B is good for that movie because I
Hmm.
did
yeah.
rewatch it also. And I, like you, Sophia, had a better experience with it. I think that those performances are really good. And yeah, it is a little antiquated in terms of, as you said, the Mr. Mom type thing. But,
Hmm.
I think that's actually the most effective part of the movie. I liked this story of this single dad trying to raise his son. And, you know, I have a very close relationship with my dad, so father-son stories really kind of hit me in a certain way, and I was enjoying that. I have an issue with that movie when it becomes about the actual divorce and the child custody, because that's when it feels like this movie has very little sympathy for the Meryl Streep character,
Hmm.
and that was the kind of surprising thing on my rewatch was like how much it tried to give her something of a portrait that you could connect with, but really when you looked at it, it did kind of seem like this guy has done such a great job under the horrible circumstances, and look how great he's doing. And then the woman comes back in to just ruin it. And
Hmm.
that was a little disappointing. It's so favored, I feel like, for his character that we don't really get her perspective all that much. And I feel like the movie gets let down because of that.
Yeah. And so much of that speech from Meryl, she wrote. Meryl Streep helped write that because the script was even more, I think,
Yeah.
critical of her character. And she came in with that new perspective a little bit. And I love the part when she's like, he's been his dad for 18 months. Like, this is how long he has been here for him in this way. And you're
Yeah.
going to give him preference here. Yeah, it's very harsh on the women, I think.
Yeah. It's on the rewatch. I do agree with you. I think the performances are fantastic. Hoffman and Streep and Jane Alexander. My God, she's incredible in this film. We'll
One of the
talk about
most
her.
underrated actresses of the 70s for me.
Absolutely. And, but it is extremely dated. I also was just watching it and reminding myself of the problems that I had with a movie that's kind of the equivalent of that and from the modern age, and the same problems I had with Marriage Story, where I feel like this feels like from the writing perspective for it to be more from one side rather than both and really flesh out the mother character. And I feel both are kind of under, for me at least, the same thing happened with this film. It's like if this is a woman who is on literally the verge of a breakdown and needs an escape, I need to see probably more of that. I need to maybe go away from this like pristine, like dad son relationship to see what happened to her and what she's had self discovery, maybe. And then, yeah, it feels weird too because the movie presents her as the outright villain of this movie. And then the world gives her everything without any logic whatsoever, but makes kind of clear arguments that she's a terrible mother in court. And even still with his problems, it's like, well, he's got the job in the house, and it's so the movie's logic about like then making Dustin Hoffman like, well, you didn't get the kid because they just sided all with the mother. And it's like, that's not how that works either. Like, even back in like in this state where I live in, yes. In the rest of the world where like there's actually level-headed people and uh, hear all the evidence, that's not the case. And it just
Well,
feels
again,
like,
it's the 70s. Like
yeah,
you approach it with
Hmm.
that. But I remember watching that courtroom scene, and like when she's interrogated, there's that moment when they cut back to Dustin Hoffman, and he's
yeah.
like basically saying, like, no, it's okay, you should feel all right, even though the lawyer is just tearing her down and saying how bad she was. But then when he's on the stand and basically getting the same treatment, then it's like, oh, you did this underhanded thing telling your lawyer about the time our kid fell. And it's like, what? Why is it that this is basically the same situation, but he gets to look like a good guy because he still supports her, even though he's still trying to get custody. But when it happens to him on the stand, that she was, an underhanded bitch who
Hmm.
betrayed him, and it's like, what are we doing
No, I
here?
mean, to be
Yeah.
fair, in that situation, Josh, it's like, I agree with you. It's like then when she looks at him, he's giving her permission to lie to make herself not look bad either. And then when his lawyer is ripping her apart, and then he's like, and then we get back to the saying, you didn't have to be so mean to her.
Exactly.
It's like, you know
Hmm.
who you hired, idiot.
Yeah.
And so it's not really Hoffman or even Streep's problem. It's the script,
No, yeah,
which
no.
feels very 1979.
Hmm.
And so, but yeah, the performances carry it. It made a crap ton of money, which is insane, for a movie like this.
Yeah, remember when movies like this could be in like your top 10 of the box office? Isn't that crazy?
I mean, it was
Yeah.
an $8 million budget and made $173 million.
It's the only movie of the year to make over 100 million domestic.
That
Mm,
is crazy,
yeah,
crazy. So, um, okay, you guys want some trivia?
Let's do it. All right,
It's
please,
Josh,
gonna
are you
yes.
ready?
it's gonna be wild. It's not that much.
Okay.
I didn't go as hard on you guys this time. But I am going to ask you the standards and staples. So, do you guys know who hosted this? Hosted this Oscars, the 52nd Oscars?
Johnny Carson.
I
That's
was
right.
gonna guess Carson, yeah.
That's right. Johnny Carson hosted it. How long was the ceremony?
The three
Price is right at.
uh 340.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with 310. I'm gonna say they were more
Mm.
disciplined back then than they
Sophia's
are today.
closer. The
Mm.
actual retail price was 3 hours and 15 minutes.
Oh, when I was under.
Yeah.
All right, we
So,
got
yeah,
it.
yeah, there you go. Um, how many people watched it?
Oh God, I'm
In the
so bad at
millions.
this.
In the millions. It's going to astonish you.
Well, it is
I'm
the older,
higher. Yeah.
yeah. So
Mhm.
the more people were watching it.
40 million?
Okay. Josh?
I will say 43.
But he's going to go 41 and a dollar.
No, I'm not gonna do that bad.
Um, it was 49 million.
Okay,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love the 70s.
Freaking wild. If they got a
Well, there were
49
fewer
million,
channels. Yeah,
if
that's
they got
what
a
did
True.
49
it.
million now, man, they would be doing
Oh, that would
backflips
be
in the
like a
street.
huge success. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right. What film won the BAFTA for Best Feature Film?
Manhattan.
That is correct.
Oh, wow.
What other Best Picture winner was nominated for Best Director, Best Actor, well, for multiple things, but also Best Film at the BAFTAs? What other Best Picture winner was nominated for multiple awards, including Best Film at the BAFTAs?
And it was a winner.
It was a previous winner.
I
And
Oh,
mean, was it Deer Hunter?
it was The
yeah.
Deer Hunter,
Yeah.
because The Deer Hunter came out in 78 at Christmas. It's one of those sneaky little December things.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
then it released wide February. See, they were doing it back then, still
Oh,
do.
yeah.
Mhm.
And then they released it wide in like
Steaming.
February and even all the way up to May of 79 was when people were seeing The Deer Hunter. And
And
yeah, the
because
BAFTA.
BAFTA wasn't a precursor back then, it happened after the Oscars. Their window was different in terms of what they nominated.
Yes. What? I'm gonna throw another BAFTA one at you. What Who won Best Actor and Best Actress? Same film. They were nominated in 79. Who won actor and actress? They were nominated in 79.
Wasn't it Jack Lemmon and Jane Fonda for China Syndrome?
Correct. Correct.
Ew.
Who won Best Actor at the Golden Globes for musical or comedy?
Oh, actor.
And musical or comedy?
Did Peter Sellers win?
For being there. That is correct.
Okay.
Who won or what won Best Comedy or Musical at the Golden Globes?
Was that The Rose?
It was not.
Okay.
Breaking Away.
That's correct.
Okay.
It was one of those two.
Yeah.
It was one of those two.
Would have preferred, I mean, I don't really care for either of those, but one of them is definitely better than the other.
Who won Best New Star of the Year actor and actress at the Golden Globes?
Bette Midler won
Yep,
actress.
that's correct.
Mm,
Best New Star of the Year.
did Justin Henry win for
He was
Kramer?
nominated, but he did not win.
Mm.
Yeah. That movie won
Dennis Christopher?
for Breaking Away. No, he was nominated, but he did not
Okay.
win. Would you guys want to know?
Tell me.
It's Ricky Schroeder for The Champ.
Oh, wow.
It's really funny.
You're welcome, folks.
I do remember that now. Yeah. Ricky Schroeder.
A Faye Dunaway film.
Yeah.
Who won which? Okay. I know what this one. Okay. Who presented Best Director?
At the Oscars.
Yes. It was a duo. I'll give you that.
Hmm. Would this be like a legendary duo?
It's not a legendary duo, but
Okay.
I'll give you a hint. It's a director and their actor slash actress. I'm not going to give up who that is, but they did do a movie together.
They did a movie together.
One movie
Okay.
early in his career.
Is this an Oscar-winning director?
Yes. He has gone on to win multiple Best Director Oscars.
Spielberg.
Yes.
Okay, now who's the actor?
The actress, I'll give you that.
Oh, actress. Ooh, okay.
And you said they had worked together.
Yeah. Right?
79.
An actress. Oh, this is reaching back into the brain here. Goldie Hawn?
That's correct. They worked on Sugarland Express, baby.
Yeah.
Yep. I was like, how many movies has Spielberg made up to this point? What are those? There are a couple of options.
And who who presented Best Picture? Classic Hollywood guy. Well, not classic Hollywood, I guess. He's just like kind of problematic, I guess.
Oh, problematic.
Problematic.
Oh, that gives us a little bit, Josh.
Not that much, though.
Not that much then,
Hollywood,
though.
That doesn't really narrow it down a ton.
Problematic, like politically or behavior?
Yeah, politically. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Let's just say he was. Oh no.
Oh, was it Mr. NRA?
Yeah.
Charlton Heston?
That is correct. What? Well, let's just round it out here. Kramer versus Kramer won Best Picture. What other Oscars did it win, and how many did it win in total?
It won 5,
Mm-hmm.
and it also won director, actor, supporting actress, and adapted screenplay.
That's correct. Nothing below the line.
Man, if they had category frauded Marilyn to
Yeah.
lead, it would have been a big 5.
It would have, yeah.
Or if they wrote her a little bit better
Yeah.
and she was a co-lead.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I feel like it was an unstoppable force, this movie. Kramer versus
Oh,
Kramer
yeah.
that year.
It's so fascinating. Yeah, because it really is a representation of like where the 70s audiences were, that this movie that is just this domestic drama, but it's kind of about an issue that is like a hot button topic during that
Hmm.
time. It's like that's what people want to see, and that's crazy and fascinating. And God, I miss it. I miss it
Yeah.
so
Me
much.
too.
We're gonna play the shoulda, coulda, woulda game. We're gonna do the top 8 categories. We're gonna start with, well, if anyone has never listened to one of the Oscar retrospectives this year, the shoulda, coulda, woulda game has changed. We are now doing this as a team. We tried to do a democratic agreement or election where we are gonna keep 3 of the winners and replace 2. We don't have to replace 2, but we have up to 2 replacements, and then we will decide a new winner. Best picture though is different. We can replace up to 3 there, and same rules apply. We can replace up to 3 and pick a new winner. Let's start with adapted screenplay. The winner was Kramer versus Kramer. We have Apocalypse Now, Kaja Falls, a little romance, and Norma Ray. Norma Ray. Let's have that conversation.
I
Um,
love Sally Field and Norma Ray.
I rewatched this movie. What were we doing in '79? Like,
Okay. Well,
really?
you know what? I'm gonna be honest. I actually kind of really liked Norma
You
Ray.
like it?
I
Okay.
did. There's going to be another category coming up. I'm going to make a very passionate plea
Okay.
for in terms of that movie, but I liked it. I mean, yes, it is very again like very 1979, but very Martin Ritt type movie for
Hmm.
sure.
Hmm.
But I don't know, it works on me. I like it. I dug it.
Yeah. I think it's really moving at certain moments.
I don't know. I kind of found it cheesy as hell, and
Well,
I don't know.
yeah,
I was just kind of
sure.
like, maybe it's because, yeah, I don't know. It just was like, okay, I see the actress win here. Screenplay, I don't know about. Um, I
As
probably.
far as what, oh, go
Oh,
ahead.
yeah, no, no, no. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, as far as what to keep, I do like the issues that I have with Kramer versus Kramer as a screenplay, I understand, but I do think we should keep it as one of ours just because I think that it is, as far as like structure goes and some of the dialogue, I do really like some of that, especially for Dustin Hoffman's character and Jane Alexander's character too. And then I'm also very passionately for keeping Apocalypse Now. I think it is a fascinating adaptation of Heart of Darkness.
Josh?
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with that, and I think it should be of no surprise that I would also say keep La Cage aux Folles. Like, yes, I
Yes.
love that movie. I love that script. I would very much be in favor of that staying too.
I think that those should be the 3.
I
Apocalypse,
haven't seen The
Lacage,
Little
and
Romance, unfortunately. I will admit I
yeah,
didn't catch up with that one.
didn't get to it. There, there were so many films I had to watch,
Yeah.
or rewatch, or wanted to rewatch this past week, and I just was not able to get. It was on the list, clearly. Um, I haven't seen it, but I'm
I
fair to say
have
that I'm
seen
gonna.
it, but
Yeah,
we can cut it.
we can cut it. Okay,
I think that's
not worth
okay.
it.
Not that it's not worth it. I think it's fine, but I think that the other
Is it just
ones
like a George Roy
are
Hill kind of
stronger.
film? Because
Yeah,
it
and
is a George Roy Hill
I'm
film.
not a George Roy Hill person
No,
either. I mean, I do, well, I love Butch Cassidy and the
I
Sundance
was gonna
Kid,
say,
but otherwise,
yeah, not a fan of
not
the
so
Sting.
much. No.
Josh, you're not a fan of the Sting.
It's fine. It's a
Yeah,
movie I never think about.
Yeah.
Sting's great. I like the Sting. Really fun. That's a fun Sunday afternoon kind of movie too.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then I would get Norma Ray out of there. We don't need that's not a screenplay nominee. I get that it has to fill the category, but like, what are we doing here?
The
I will just
replacements
say on the
now.
record, I like the Norma Ray nomination, but I'm not like attached to it. We can get rid of it,
I mean,
but I will stick up for it.
the other 3 that we're keeping are stronger
I would
screenplays
agree
than
those
what
are
we have.
better
Yeah.
screenplays, yes.
Yeah.
All right. So we got to replace two. I mean, I have mine. Um,
You go first.
I have being there.
Yep,
Of course.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like one of those where you're kind of scratching your head why this isn't all over the place.
It's such a
Yeah.
Um,
beautiful script.
such a beautiful script, such
I
a
love that
beautiful
movie
movie.
just in
Yeah,
general. It is, I mean, trying to pick a favorite Hal Ashby movie from the 70s is always
it's tough.
difficult, but
Hmm
on some days I'm tempted to say that this is my favorite. I love this film so much. And yeah, the screenplay, it is shocking that it is not a nominee here.
Yeah. And then I would nominate Tess. I know that that's controversial. I know people are going to be like,
Is
what are you
that
doing?
this year? Didn't they nominate it in 80?
Was it nominated in 80
Yeah,
or
it's
did it
nominated
got
in
moved?
80.
Ah, I was looking this up and
It
I
is
couldn't find it.
79, but it doesn't come out in the US
So,
until
okay. Well, then I'm
80
taking it
Yeah.
off the board.
because I
All
would
right.
have put it into.
I gotta
Are
figure
you
things
thinking
out
of the
now.
scene in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood when Sharon Tate goes to get the book?
Yeah, yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I watched this 3 hour movie then this week, which was great. Damn.
Well, you're
Natasha
prepared for next
Kinski is
year.
good in
I'm
it.
prepared for next year. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. You guys, while I try to figure out another one, do you guys have something to nominate?
This was kind of tough, honestly, to find
Yeah, it's
another
hard.
nominee because after being there, I was like, I don't really know. And
I
honestly, the
know.
other one that I came up with was The Warriors.
That was what I had, Josh. I watched
Yeah,
that yesterday
I love
What
for
that
the first
movie.
time. Yeah.
what'd you think of it, Sophia?
I really liked it. It was funny yesterday. I called my mom on my walk and I was like telling her about all the 79 movies I was watching, and that was the year she graduated from high school. She's like, "Oh, I saw The Warriors at the drive-in." I was like, "Oh, I love that so much."
It is a
Oh,
great drive-in movie.
It
Yeah.
is.
it is.
Because the other ones I had, I was like, okay, Amityville Horror was huge, but that's not worth nominating in
That's a terrible movie.
screenplay. It's such a bad movie. Oh, my
Yeah, The Well
fun
was
one
not deep.
was, yeah, my fun one was Winter Kills, which is a very fun satire, but not, again, I wouldn't say worthy of a nomination. So I'm fine with being there in The Warriors.
Walter Hill. Actually, Ryan, just side note, I think Walter Hill would actually be a really interesting director's watch pick for you.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
yeah, I would totally.
Because I also just saw Streets of Fire on 70 millimeter a couple
Oh,
days ago.
great
What
movie.
a fascinating movie that one is,
hmm
too.
I would honestly I would go with that because you know, yeah,
Yeah, wasn't a deep bench and adapted this year, I
it's not a deep
felt.
bench. I'm trying to look it up on the fly. It's not going to be helpful and it doesn't do
Yeah.
well for a podcast. So let's go with that. We'll go with being there and the Warriors. Wow, congratulations, the Warriors.
It had to get in
It's
somewhere.
a good movie
Yeah.
though. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Great
it is a
movie.
it's a really good movie. Um, and it's all yeah. Um, okay, what are we giving the winner here to now? I mean, Sophia.
Well, I'm gonna go with Apocalypse Now, just because I love Heart of Darkness, the novel, and I think that this is a very creative adaptation of it and using Vietnam there. I feel like people don't really talk about the screenplay as much when they talk about Apocalypse Now. They tend to talk about the direction or some of the technical components, but that's where I would go just thinking of adaptation.
Okay.
I I was actually leaning towards being there just
Okay.
because I love the concept. I love the ideas. And that's one of those movies that from the very first moment I saw it, I was just sort of struck with this really profound philosophical idea about how we relate to people and how we perceive others. And then you get to that ending that kind of completely changes your own perception of that story. And
Mhm.
I just thought it was like truly one of the most profound experiences I had while watching a movie. And I think a large part of that is due to that screenplay. So that's where my heart was going.
Josh, were you Olivia
I'm fine with that.
Colman in Empire of Light crying in the theater when you watched it?
A little bit. I mean, I just think that movie's so beautiful. It really
Yeah.
It
is.
is. It's so
Uh,
beautiful.
it's yeah, I mean it's hard to do satire so well, I think, and it's also got just the sincereness to it that just melts your heart. I'm gonna be in
Like
there
I just
too.
love that character and how much he is this blank slate that people
Yeah.
just project everything onto.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But it's so fascinating to see how people reach those conclusions and
Yeah.
how we operate with each other. And like, is this divine intervention or is this just a simple man that we're making things more complicated than they need to be? And
Hmm.
like his whole gardening metaphor, I love how everybody just runs with it.
Hmm.
Oh, it's so great.
But it isn't
I
as also like true like how someone can take just a simple idea and then run it. I mean, even all the way up to the White House and how it's just like then it
Mhm.
can get corrupted and it can turn into all these things and it's never intended to be that way. And I think that yeah, that's what's so brilliant about that movie. It's just like what you're saying, Josh. It's satirical because it's throwing it at our face of just how we project the best and worst things about humanity onto potentially just simplistic, you know, metaphors about gardening and just a guy wanting to watch
Which
TV.
isn't
And
even a metaphor what he is talking about. He's
no, he's just
literally
like,
talking about gardening.
Mhm.
because
But it's
that's
like
all he
So
knows.
clever.
That's
The
all he
Yeah.
world is so
knows.
cynical that it can't ever take an actual idea at face value. It always has to be manipulated into something else, no matter how pure and innocent that
For their
idea
own
is.
gain. Yeah.
Hmm.
Sophia.
I after I watched Being There again on Friday, I read the Criterion essay in my little case. And one of my favorite ideas from it was that you watch the movie and by the end of it, you don't really, you still don't really know this character. You feel like you maybe have an idea, but you know so much more about yourself by the end of the experience and how you view life. And I think that's so beautiful and also works so nicely, I think, in concert with how the other characters perceive him and what they learn from him or don't.
Yeah.
And it's so 1970s that idea and how like brave and weird it is altogether that yeah, no, I'm a big fan. So I'm very happy with this being the winner.
Yeah. Yeah. Because uh yeah, I'm picking it. And that yeah. And also if I had a runner up, it would have been probably Apocalypse Now.
Same.
Um
And I also would say that as just an adaptation, also
yeah.
brilliant. I
Yeah.
do love it. And I do think that movie should get a lot more credit for its writing. I agree with you, Sophia. But just the ideas, the thematic commentary and being there, I just think is so special for that film.
Yeah. We'll talk about Apocalypse Now probably here more in a little bit. And the screenplays probably aren't is not the problem with that movie. Anyway, um original screenplay. Breaking Away was the winner. All that jazz. Injustice for All, The China Syndrome, Manhattan. Those are our nominations. It was, uh, just a bad win. Like, what are we doing here? Like,
Yeah, I mean,
this
like
is like
Breaking
one of the
Away
worst.
is
This is such
I don't
a
hate Breaking Away,
I don't
but
hate it either, but I it is a movie that very much feels like this was a hit in 1979, and that is the reason why it is here. I get
mhm.
why it was a hit in 1979, but like it's okay. Like it's a good movie. I enjoyed it. I think it's entertaining, but it is nothing that I think has any kind of staying power outside of just being popular in this one specific period of time.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
agree with that.
I was just annoyed by it when I was watching it.
They are kind of annoying characters,
They're
though.
super
They
annoying.
are. They
Although
are.
you
I'm
know
like,
what? It
oh, white
is.
boys, I want to get into cycling. I was like, I don't give a shit.
It's
Like,
so annoying how hot Dennis Quaid is in the movie, though.
it
I know.
it
It's
probably didn't
it's
help watching the
profoundly
Olymp
annoying.
it probably didn't help watching the Olympics literally when or like in and around the time of watching this and just watching how
Hmm.
sophomoric a lot of the racing
Although you know
sequences
another
are
thing
in
about
there.
that
Yeah.
movie, if it did come out today, Dennis Christopher would totally be the internet's boyfriend.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Everybody would be
please.
obsessed with these four.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
They'd be like making like vision boards and stuff. Do they
It'd
make
be
vision
like
boards?
with challengers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would. It's just so many screenshots and gifs. Um, but yeah, what are you guys taking away, Sophia?
Well,
or Josh?
Josh, you go first.
Well, I would say the China Syndrome, I don't know why this is represented so highly. I mean, it's another one that I think is fine, but like that really feels like 79 in terms of our collective worry about, nuclear power and energy. Like it feels very much tapping into the zeitgeist, but like as a movie, what is this doing in the Oscar race? Absolutely not.
I don't hate China
I
Syndrome.
I don't either.
I mean, it's a fine movie. I think it's enjoyable, but I look at these Oscar nominations and I'm like, what are we doing?
I actually think the screenplay is not bad for it. It's like an effective thriller, and I think,
Yeah.
those performances are pretty good too. Like I would take away Breaking Away, and actually the other one I would take away is Injustice for All. That
That's
Well,
one
movie
I
yeah,
is
that one
had.
too.
that movie is stupid. Like that is a stupid movie. It's only remembered because it has this one scene that is
Yeah,
like
you're
in
out of order.
Pacino's
Yeah.
"You're out of order. This whole trial's out of order." Like that scene is in Pacino's Hall of Fame legacy, top five, top 10 sort of moments of his career. And if you're like, oh man, if you go on YouTube and you watch that, you're like, guys, and Justice for All might be the greatest movie I've ever seen. But there's also 2 hours that go along with it that are just gobbledygook nonsense. And it's just like the music choices and everything, but it's like it's just kind of nonsensical at times. And it's not a good screenplay. And it's also kind of the beginning, it's the end of Pacino being subtle, and it's the start of him being hooah a little bit. You know what I mean? Like it's the
Yeah.
start of him being big again. And
Another transition from the
yeah,
70s to
exactly, from
80s.
the
Yep.
70s to the 80s. And because like next after this, isn't it? Is it Scarface is after this, or is he already done it at this point?
Pretty
But
close because Scarface is
yeah,
like 83.
yeah, there you
Mhm.
Movie I
go.
hate,
So
by the way.
I don't like it either.
can't wait to talk about that one.
Well,
Down
don't
the
get me
road.
started about just De Palma in general,
Yeah.
that I
Oh,
have
you're not
very
a De Palma
controversial
guy. Oh,
opinions about about Brian De Palma. Yeah,
I
interesting.
love one De Palma movie.
I
I
do
think others
too.
I can
Blowout.
take or leave. Blowout for me.
Oh, for me, it's Carrie.
Oh, and Carrie, so too. I love two.
Interesting. Well, I mean, then his Mission
But
Impossible
like
movie is
Dress to
really good too.
Kill, no.
Ugh, hate
I,
that movie.
I also do not like that at all.
I hate that. I hate Scarface. I don't like it.
I don't
Most of
like
his
Body Double.
movies. No.
Okay. And that's been the Brian De Palma corner of this episode.
But yeah, I'm good cutting Breaking Away and Injustice for All. I'm with you, Ryan. I love taking things away from the Levinsons if we can, also.
I was gonna say that too. Yeah.
To be
He does
fair,
not
also
need to be an
Josh,
Oscar nominee.
the if I did take another one away, it would be China Syndrome. But for the purposes of the game,
Hmm.
that's
And I'm not gonna
it's
fight it
it's
too
kind of
much.
in the middle. Like it's the most in the middle. Like I get it of the time sort of nomination. It's not to the level
Both of
of
them are really kind
yeah,
of
Yeah.
representative of that.
yeah. So by Breaking Away, by Injustice for All, what are we
Hmm.
replacing them with?
Alien.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
We have to put Alien here. I think what it does, it is a brilliant screenplay, and the ideas that go into just how the script is designed too, as this slow burn, the world building across, right? The opening 30 to 40 minutes before the action really starts, I think is just so thorough. And it's so creative too, and how the writing informs the production design, the visual effects. I think it's pretty brilliant, and part of the reason why a franchise was formed and why this is still the best of them.
Yeah, I mean, Alien, spoiler alert, is going to be mentioned a lot from me
Hmm.
as we go through these categories because it is one of my all-time favorite movies. If I did a top five of like my greatest movies of all time, Alien would absolutely be in there. And yeah, the screenplay, not just the concept itself and the surprises, but I think there's also like really rich thematic commentary there too that is
Hmm.
also weirdly reflective of the 70s in terms of industrialization and capitalism and how expendable just the blue collar workforce is. Like it's actually a really subversive political movie when you really think about it. And if you just wanted to watch it as a great standard horror movie, that would be good too. But I think that screenplay is, yeah, it is great, and I think underappreciated of how many wonderful elements there are in that storytelling.
Yeah. And think of
Make
how it compares to something like the China Syndrome, which is trying to sort of address, I would say, similar themes of like capitalism and government control and what your place is in a system. And Alien, I think, just does that in a way that's much more forward thinking.
Which horror can do a lot of times. Horror can
Hmm.
often be this like Trojan horse for these much more interesting political ideas that people don't realize because they just see horror movie.
Yeah. I it was on my list. For sure.
Yeah.
And it's the one I mean, I don't think people give enough credit to the screenplay for Alien. It is a very complex film. It's also what Ridley Scott was trying to chase essentially when he made Prometheus and Alien Covenant. It's the complexity, but this is also done with such a simplicity to it as well at times. It's incredible how well that movie's aged. If you can get the 4K, it's incredible. Transfer of that. Um, it's also just, I mean, it's just a really damn good movie and a really damn
Yeah.
good screenplay.
As I said, we'll be mentioning it a
A
lot
lot.
as we go
Hmm.
forward.
I'm gonna nominate up for the committee. I'm gonna nominate Hardcore from Paul
Yes.
Schrader. Um, uh,
Also on
th-
my list.
this is a movie that it's wild, and Schrader is one of the great screenplay writers of the 70s, and then obviously probably like he starts making his transitions to his writer director phase from working with Scorsese. Um, this movie is incredibly dark, and but there is it's so patient in its writing. It just is kind of building and crackling and exposing the hype. It is a movie that Ty West clearly watched for Maxine and tried to rip off at every moment and not have like these really emotional, complex, hard realities of by the end, that father having to have the conversation with the daughter that he lost. It literally is the same movie, by the way. And the more I'm thinking about it, it is wild. There's a private
It kind of
detective
is.
and everything. There, it's
I'm
a holy
really
shit. Um,
shook right now. I didn't think about that when I was
um,
watching it.
well, there's even like him going down like this almost like red room, right? In that, and
Oh
then
my
it's like the
God,
same
yeah.
thing that Maxine works at. Okay, wild. Anyway, um, it's highly effective. I just think it's. I watched it this week. It was the movie that's been on my mind the most. I had never seen it before, and I was like, always, and it's on the Criterion Channel, and I watched it, and I was like, damn, this is a good freaking movie. Schrader, good at his job. Maybe not on Facebook, but as a writer director, he's pretty good. And
Well, I'm looking
um
forward to you guys seeing "Oh Canada."
Oh, I can't wait.
I can't wait.
Richard
Uh,
Gere and Jacob Elordi, a movie made for me.
his older stuff though is more consistent, I think, Josh, than his newer stuff
Yeah.
for me. So that's who I would like to throw my candidacy towards. A very dark, twisted, but ultimately emotional film by the end.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I mean, to be honest with you, I was so focused on Alien, I kind of didn't really pay attention to anything else. So yeah, I'm good with that.
Sophia, you watched it
Yeah,
this week too, right?
I did. And those were the two I had, Alien and Hardcore. I was really surprised by this movie, and it feels like such a quintessential Paul Schrader experience. Like this Calvinist father and going into the underbelly of LA is just so, it's just very, it's darkly funny in a way that Schrader
Some silly shit in
does.
this movie, and it works.
Very much so, and also hard to watch at times too. But I'll probably be bringing it up again for another category later. But I did want it to be included here in screenplay.
Yeah. All right, it's in. So we have Alien and Hardcore, along with the China Syndrome, all that jazz, Manhattan. What are we giving the win to, Josh?
I'm giving it to Alien.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time, and I think a lot of that is down to what the screenplay is doing. And I think for being yes, like if you look at the surface, like it does have a story that has been seen in so many like sci-fi alien movies that we've seen before. But I think it takes that concept, kind of strips it down to its bare essentials, and then builds up a really fascinating story from that. And also the fact that like all of these characters have very distinct personalities, and I feel a connection with every single one of them. Even Kane, who we get the least amount of screen time with, I still feel like I get a sense of who that character is. Like that's a harder job to do than you would think. And like, yeah, part of that is also what the actors are doing, but I think from the writing, the fact that all of them make an impression, is another thing that I love about that screenplay. So yeah, I'm gonna vote for Alien.
All right. Sophia?
Yeah, I was really between two. Alien, which is one of my favorite films ever made, and my problematic fave, Manhattan. I love the dialogue in Manhattan and how awful Woody Allen's character is and just how he deals with the women in his life. I feel like I don't know, it's very dark for many reasons that we won't get into here, but by the end, I think the contrast of his failed relationships with the beauty of New York is very beautiful. But I'm actually going to go with Alien too. I think that what you said earlier, Josh, about how part of the brilliance of the film is that you can watch this as a psychological thriller, as a horror film. You can do that, right? Just a movie to enjoy, but you can also like dig into these deeper themes that are completely, well, they're fully developed too, which is another thing. Like it doesn't just scratch the surface at them. It really, I mean, pops them wide open. And I mean, speaking of that imagery with the chest burster scene, even like digging into that and how they were thinking of that as similar to a childbirth and all of these things about sexual violence is something that, again, you don't need to think about when you're watching the film, but if you do, all of that is there for a much richer experience. So I'm going to go Alien.
It doesn't matter what I pick here. But I would go with the clean sweep. I would go with Alien as well. Not Alien 2 because that's aliens, or as James Cameron would put it, aliens with a dollar sign through it.
Yeah.
But
And you know what? It worked.
it worked.
Hmm.
To different degrees, obviously. But yeah, it is a very complex, fascinating piece of sci-fi. And I, the thing that I think because I don't think Aliens is actually an alien movie at times. I think it's a James Cameron movie, and that's what kind of rules about it. Um, the thing that every other alien movie has tried to do is almost like what every Terminator sequel has tried to do is try to recapture a magic and tone that original set. And I think the problem is that they don't understand how to ground all of what those movies are trying to say the way that Alien does. And that it is essentially a haunted house movie in space, but then you're able to then set that just like that. That's the base for it, and then build out. And I think a lot of what these alien sequels, and this is what I'm so curious about with Romulus, is all these movies they are building out and then try to find a meaning inside, and they have too many ideas, or they're trying to do too much spectacle. Oh, and by the way, we have to do chest bursters, and all we have to do face huggers, and all we have to do all these other things. And it's just like, no, just make a simple good movie first, and then you're able
Hmm.
to build it out. And that's what makes the screenplay so, I think, effective. It's just like it starts from a simple idea and it can branch itself out, and then you have questions. There's darkness and seediness to it. I love it. And yeah, it's kind of just like the perfect kind of screenplay that you can ask for a movie like this. That, like Josh, you're saying, we've seen space movies, we've seen monster movies, we've seen stuff like this before this and then after this. But there's just something about the marriage of this, the way Alien is able to do it. So it's kind of perfect. So, all right. Alien, you're an Oscar winner. Screenplay. Congratulations. Um, Supporting actor. Melvin Douglas won for Being There. You have Robert Duvall, Frederick Forrest, Justin Henry, and Mickey Rooney.
What a winner of a category this
What
What a
is.
lineup.
what a stacked category. We
I
got to
have so
keep.
many write-ins too.
I know. It's
just,
like this is the
yeah.
one category. It's like, man, I wish we could like jettison almost
Mhm.
everybody because like this is rough.
We got to keep three. Can only replace two. Josh, where do you want to start?
Um, well, to me, I mean, I would probably say like the best of this category is probably Duvall
Yeah.
for me,
Mhm.
even though he's not even my favorite performance in that movie. But I
Nope.
mean, just given the competition, I feel like that has to be at least minimum for him to keep. He would be the only one I would even like consider keeping. It was just for me. And then after that, ugh, I mean, Melvin Douglas isn't bad in being there. Again, not my favorite performance, and it's a little baffling that that's an Oscar win, but like he's okay. And I don't know, Frederick Forrest, he's cute.
Sophia.
Yeah, I mean this is a tough one. Because I mean Melvin Douglas, like the win totally makes sense if you just step back and you're like,
Yeah.
he was really
Yeah.
old at the time. He had a great Hollywood career.
He's
Sorry.
just taking a step back. He's
But he's not
really
even like
old.
but he's not even like overdue because he'd already won before. Like if he had
Right.
Yeah.
never
That's
won, I
true.
would it would make so much more sense.
That is
But
so
he
true.
already had an Oscar,
In a
so
couple
Yeah.
in a couple of episodes, in a like a
Yeah.
month or so, we're going to talk about 94, and that's one where it's like that person was. We'll talk about that supporting actor
okay,
race.
no,
Yeah.
well, table that because
Yeah.
I will fight you
Yeah.
about that one.
No, I'm
Oh
just
yeah.
saying, like, if you're going to use they're old, we need to give it to them kind of argument, that is the best kind of argument. Like, that's one of the case studies of that. It's like, regardless of it, we need to give this person an Oscar, but it doesn't make any sense with Douglas because he already has one. So it's
Yeah.
it's weird.
Yeah. Um, so I would, I think we can, I mean, I think Justin Henry is kind of a fun nomination. I don't really love child performances often, and he would be my fourth favorite across all of the Kramer nominations, but the one I'm like, we need to cut is Mickey Rooney. He's my like very first out. So I think
Not a fan of the Black Stallion.
that's one I did not return to for
Yeah, this is
for
more
this
just about Mickey
episode.
Rooney in general that we can
Yeah.
deny him stuff.
Yeah. Um,
I think he was good in that movie, but
he's a
but
cut for me, but the only one I really care about keeping is Robert Duvall.
Yeah.
I think
So
Duvall's in.
now,
We can all keep
yeah,
Duvall.
Yeah.
Um,
let's keep let's keep Justin Henry. How do you guys feel about that? Is that okay?
Josh,
I mean, it's fine. I'm not married to any
it's
of
all he
these
has.
options,
Yeah.
honestly. So, like,
It's all the kid has. It's not like he went on
yeah,
to win like 6 Oscars. You know,
yeah, I'm
don't
sure.
take
Well,
don't take it
we
from
can
the
keep Justin
he.
Henry.
I mean, for history's sake, he is the youngest nominee ever nominated.
Yeah.
Right.
And he
So
does
like,
have very good chemistry with Dustin Hoffman. I like a
yeah,
lot of their scenes together. I don't
Hmm.
think they're like extraordinary, you know. I
No.
don't think that this is like a Jacob Tremblay in Room level performance for me, but like he's given what we're working with, yeah,
do
it's
you guys ever want to
fine.
put that kid though in timeout about that movie?
All the time.
Yeah,
Oh, oh my God. When he knocks over the juice on all the papers,
Mo.
timeout
Yeah.
instantly.
Mm-mm.
Well, it
Into
was
the
also way past his
kick into the
bedtime anyway.
sun.
Like, what was he doing
Yeah,
up?
what are you doing up?
Yeah, he needs to go to bed.
But then that's the Dustin Hoffman problem then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
true.
that's why you shouldn't have a kid. Um, just saying the movie's making its argument for it. I
Hmm.
keep him. I keep Duvall. Throw a dart at a board and pick the other. I'll keep Douglas. I guess. I don't know. I'll go Forrest with the rose. You know what?
Yeah,
I'll do
let's
that.
keep Forrest.
Because you want to know why? Because more nominations for the rose, the better. It's a
Let's get
good.
rid of Melvin Douglas. It's the Peter Sellers show for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I love that movie, but Melvin Douglas is just such a like, it's not like he's bad.
It's
It's
just like one
just
of those
Yeah,
where you're like,
he's
wait,
fine. Like,
what?
okay.
Yeah.
he's just there.
Hey, him and Mickey Rooney, they're out. Who are we throwing in? This is when it starts getting fun.
Like,
Um,
yeah.
Ian Holm for
Yeah,
Alien.
I was gonna say Ian Holm.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah.
do I do like that.
That's like low key the best performance in that movie.
Although, do you
I
know who got the BAFTA nomination for Alien? Was John Hurt.
Yeah.
who I do love. I was
I
kind
do
of
normally love John Hurt. I go
yeah.
back and forth in terms of whether I would do that personally because it's like I don't know if it's like totally justified, but I just love
Yeah,
John Hurt in general. He's one of my
me
favorite
too.
actors.
John
One of the
Hurt,
reasons
like,
why I love Alien also is because it has John Hurt in it.
I mean, like
And
he's
oh, he's so good. And he is so good in his limited screen time in
yes.
Yes,
Alien.
The key word there, limited. Like
Yeah.
it's
I
like,
know, but
But
you
supporting
do
we
not
can
understand
stretch
how
no,
to
no, no,
much
yeah,
limited.
that's
you do
true.
not understand, Ryan, how much I absolutely love John Hurt.
Yeah. Oh no,
Oh,
I do too.
But Ian
Um,
Holm is the better performance,
Ian
yes.
Holm's insane. That character is insane. Like
like as Ash, like it's just he's such a good
that
character.
character ran so then Michael Fassbender could just like slow walk in
Yeah, he
the
could limp.
you know um um so yeah, I think Ian Holm's in. We can just lock that
Yeah.
down. uh I went Brando. I like Brando and Apocalypse Now. I know that I listen, I'm not like the biggest Apocalypse Now fan, but he and Duvall are when that movie has energy. And spoiler alert, the lead actor in that movie doesn't, and that's a problem. And but Brando's great, and it's this shadowy figure inside of this movie, and it's really when I think you like the movie kind of picks up, and it's yeah, there's just something about it, something about Coppola in Brando. It worked, and so I would consider him for this. What about you guys?
I mean, I figured that was going to be a very popular name. The person from Apocalypse Now that I actually really like is Dennis Hopper. I
Oh, he's
love
so
his this
good.
Yeah, he's
Hopper's so
good.
craziness
good.
that just shows up, and I do really love the presence that he brings.
Like a jolt
I'm
of
also
electricity,
going,
you know?
yeah, I'm also going to mention somebody that I have a feeling is not going to get as much support considering the movie, but Rob Liebman in Norma Ray, I love that character. I think that he comes into that movie with just this fiery energy. I think he's so captivating as, the instigator for trying to bring the Union to this factory. And I love the chemistry that he has with Sally Field. I think they have like great banter. And as I said, like his defiance in every single scene is just so incredibly alluring. And it's actually a performance I'm shocked isn't an Oscar nominee. It feels like something that would have been kind of a coattail with Sally Field. And I feel like that performance is, if you like that movie at all, which I grant the audience I'm talking to, not a compelling argument, but if you do like it, I do think he is one of the elements to go with it because I just think that his screen presence is so impactful. And I really do love that performance.
I like that performance too. Another name I have on here, this is again, I would say limited screen time, but since we're talking about supporting, it's fine. Ben Vereen and All That Jazz, I think is pretty fantastic, especially at the end. I just like feel like everything that goes into that musical performance, that final number, I love. So not probably a nominee we'll go with, but someone I just wanted to mention.
I wanted to mention Roberts Blossom for Escape from Alcatraz. I think he gives a fantastic performance. That's a really good movie. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that.
I actually have
Good old
not.
Clint.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen
Uh,
that one.
Good old Clint making a movie with Don Siegel, who did
Yeah.
Dirty Harry, and it's actually a better movie all around than Dirty Harry. And because Dirty Harry's it's a weird movie. But yeah, I would consider him. He's got a couple scenes in there to just rip your heart out. It's kind of, Escape from Alcatraz, the Sing Sing of 1979. Um, so
Jeez.
sorry, I just had to make the joke. Who's our last spot? Who do you guys want to pick? I'm up.
Maybe.
I'm
Oh,
up
go
for
ahead.
anybody. No, 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 no. Oh, also
Maybe
Peter Boyle
between
in Hardcore is he's wild in that performance. That's a
he
wild
is.
performance.
Yeah. Maybe we go with one of the Apocalypse Now picks.
I'm good with that. Josh, you good with that?
That seems like a consensus. Then it's just who. I mean, I know that general history says Brando, and like I would be fine with that. I just think that Hopper is the more fun performance for
I'd
me
be
personally.
I'd be down for Hopper.
I'm fine with Hopper.
They're both really great.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do Dennis Hopper.
All right.
Ian Holm, Dennis Hopper. Who are we giving the win now to?
I mean,
This is where Justin Henry rises up. I'm joining
not
everyone else. I'm joining mom and dad in the Oscar circle. Um,
if we were sticking with the old group, I would definitely go with Duvall. Because I feel like he does give my favorite performance in Apocalypse Now, and I think it is pretty iconic, especially just from, the scenes that he's in, his lines, everything
yeah,
like that. But I'm not to go down the alien path again, but I'm going Ian Holm for Alien. I think what he does is Ash, and when you rewatch that movie, you know you know that he's an android, you know the path that that character goes down, but it still holds up even though you know the twist. And
yeah.
that's a mark of a great performance. I say the same thing about Faye Dunaway in Chinatown. You know what becomes of her character and who she is, but it's the subtleties that actually make the movie stronger on rewatch, and I feel the same way about him.
I feel the same way. I would go home. It's not even close. Like it's one of those where clearly the Academy liked Alien Below the Line. Um,
Well, kind of. They
kind
gave it
of.
two
Yeah.
nominations.
You know what I mean? Like, so they did see it. They didn't know that it existed. But it's one of
I
those
would say
where
more
it's,
so they knew it was a hit,
yeah.
personally.
But it's one of those where it's like you're not willing to go that far all the way. And it kind of drives me nuts because it's just like there's really great work all around here. It's a masterpiece in front of your eyes. And yeah, this performance is it's so good. Uh and the image of his head decapitated by the is always one of those images just as much as the chest burster. It's one of those images I always remember from the film as well too.
I do too,
Um
for different reasons, because it doesn't really look great. That's one of the few kind scenes in that movie where the
Yeah.
effects work is not great, but that wonderful like line delivery that Ian Holm gives in
yeah.
that scene, which I have of course committed to memory because I've seen this movie countless times. I basically know this whole movie by heart. And yeah, I would tend to agree that I think he would be the standout. I think second place would actually for me be Dennis Hopper because again, just love the craziness. But yeah, the layers to the character of Ash, I think, are beautifully embodied in that performance. And a much better Oscar nomination and win, I would say, if Ian Holm had gotten this as opposed to Chariots of Fire.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
oh. Again, another movie from Empire of Light. Just
Yeah.
just putting that out there.
Why?
What? It's true. Being there and
Even though, like, not a great movie, but I did like how that one scene of her giving that Shakespeare monologue while the theme to Chariots of Fire is playing in the background was very
oh, when she's
funny.
like giving it to Colin Firth.
Yes.
Yeah, that is a pretty
And the
great scene.
Chariots of Fire thing is going.
The lipstick.
I gotta admit, I
Ah,
did like
yeah.
that.
Oh, it's great. Supporting actress Meryl Streep won the Oscar for Kramer versus Kramer. Jane Alexander, Barbara Barry, Candice Bergen, Meryl Hemingway. Who are we taking out?
I mean, here we go again, right?
Yeah. Well, the first one for me is Barbara Barry.
Hmm.
It's like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
It's like she's
again, take that
again not
movie out
bad
of
in the movie,
everything.
but
Yeah,
why is this an Oscar nominated performance? Like, if you're going to nominate one of the parents, the dad would actually make much more sense to me.
yeah.
Hmm.
But like again, she's not terrible, but I just don't find that to be an exceptional performance at all.
It's kind of like the Jackie Weaver of Silver Lane's Playbook nomination where you're just like, what the hell are you doing here?
Yeah.
Like there's better people to nominate.
Well, at least Barbara Barry had a crying scene. Like, at
Yeah,
least I get it
exactly,
at least
right?
for that.
Yeah.
Like, she
No,
had more
like,
to do than
yeah.
Jackie Weaver.
What did Jackie Weaver do in that movie? She basically made like snacks and that was it.
I try to remove that movie from my memory.
Yeah.
I would take her out. That-
I mean, it's hard because I don't really care outside of, to be honest, Meryl and Jane Alexander. Like those are the two I feel like we need to keep. And then, I mean, as much as I do, like I said, I really like Manhattan. I've never really understood the Mariel Hemingway nomination. I don't really
That's
think
why
she has
I
much to
kept
do.
I kept Candice Bergen for starting over.
I didn't see starting over, so unfortunately, I that was one I just
Josh,
didn't
I
have
don't
the
know how you'll
time.
feel about it. It's
Um,
it's fine.
okay,
It's
well,
just
that's
like
not very encouraging.
it's very dated, I think,
Yeah,
of
it's a very dated one. I just kept it
yeah.
because I was like, flip a coin, you know, eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
No.
However you want to get here. Like, I
Also,
agree.
Manhattan is another one. I haven't rewatched it in a while. I didn't get to it for this retrospective. I remember at the time really liking Mariel Hemingway, but it has been a while since I've last seen that movie.
It's up to you guys.
I
What do you
would
want to do?
probably keep her over Bergen
That's fine.
when I think of it, because I just watched Starting Over like 2 days ago, and
And it's your
it's the
favorite
Jill
movie now of
Clayburgh.
Yeah.
I love Jill Clayburgh
yeah.
so much.
Oh, well, that's not shocking at all.
No.
Like,
Um, but Bergen's performance, I don't know.
Okay.
I
So
could take it or leave it.
we'll keep Hemingway. Um, who we putting in?
I would like to put in Jessica Lange for All That Jazz.
okay, I was wondering who was going to be the pick from all that jazz.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could go a few ways, but I feel like Jessica Lange as this angel of death presence, it's a very like I think is so like has this like very beautiful ethereal quality, but she's also very enigmatic at the same time. I really like Jessica Lange and I feel like it's a really her performance is really interesting. I don't know. I supporting actress, this was one of the thinner ones for me of the year.
Well, the I also had somebody from all that jazz that I wanted to mention, but I was going to say Leland Palmer.
That's who I had.
I mean, we could do
Yeah.
both.
Well,
Well,
this is where I know where Josh is about to go. So I'm going to let Josh go. But I think I know where he's about what he's about to say here.
because to bring it back to Alien, just
Yeah.
for me, I really love Veronica Cartwright.
Oh, that's not where I thought you were going.
Oh, so you consider her supporting then?
Yes, I consider
Oh
Sigourney
no,
Weaver supporting.
she's lead.
She's not a lead until the end of that movie. She is supporting.
Yeah, which then makes her the lead.
She's the final girl, she's the lead.
It's
I
like the
like I agree
last
with you, Ryan, that for
15
the
minutes of that
most part of
movie.
that movie, it is a ensemble piece. But I do think the fact that it does eventually center around her, I
Okay.
think makes the difference, you
I'm
know?
I'm I'm clearly outvoted here, but I can figure that she's going to be probably in another category.
Yeah.
Um I don't know. I kind of think of it as like she's the only survivor left, and so therefore she becomes the de facto lead. Not that
Not
she is
to
the lead, but
not to do this, but she has, I think, way more screen time than anyone else.
I
And I think she's also at the center of a lot of the consequential decisions too, like the whole keeping Kane off the ship and that conflict with Ash, like that
Hmm.
is from
okay,
her. Like everything with the cat, it's her
yeah.
cat, like I do
Jonesy.
understand that for the most part it is kind of an ensemble piece, but I do think as the movie goes on, even before she becomes the final girl, that she is starting to become more and more of the central focus of those characters. So I still think I would call her the lead.
I can see that. I mean, like obviously for like I for me, I think of it as an ensemble piece for the most part. And then when we get to Aliens is really when it is her full
Well,
on
yeah.
Well,
100% show.
Yeah. I agree she's more of a
Um,
lead in Aliens,
yeah,
but I also think
yeah.
that she's still a lead in the first
Okay.
film too.
me
Well,
too.
that's fine. I'm not angry about that. I just, it's kind of like one of those fringe ones where I was like, I kind of feel like she's more here, but like I can be persuaded into the other category. It's
I
not
mean,
that I don't,
clearly we do like
clearly I
Sigourney
don't like,
Weaver.
I like the performance. I don't,
Yeah.
because I wanted to nominate her, one way or another. So, but I can move her to lead later and we can have that conversation then later. Um, but yeah, Leland Palmer, I would totally consider here. And I mean, we could do
She's got
double.
so many great scenes too. And
She
Yeah.
like some
does.
scenes that she's not even speaking, like the very first time you see her and he mentions the dancers or something like that, and she just
Or
gives him this look.
Hmm.
Great.
I mean,
I love it.
her reaction after they like showcased the airplane Chicago-esque number,
Hmm.
and she's just like, "It's your best work." God damn it! Like
Yeah.
And she's
like
like, she's mad but so impressed. It's
yeah, she's
it's
like
so good.
yeah. Um, and it also is, she's uh she's Fosse's interpretation of his
Yeah.
of
She's
Vernon,
Gwen
and
Verdon.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's Gwen
Yeah.
Vernon, and she's incredible. And I mean, she has that scene where she's dancing while he's breaking down about the choreography, and
Yep.
it's kind of one of the best scenes of the movie, and a complete showcase. And every time the piano player starts to go away, she's like, "Don't you move!" It's hilarious. It's emotional, and it again is that snapshot. What makes all that jazz so great? That snapshot back into Fosse looking back to his past and um, trying to hopefully listen to the people that are closest in his life. And even like in the scene that always breaks my heart for her is when she has to essentially lie to the company um about like how his health condition is, and like I just saw him and he was doing backflips and all that, when she clearly, when and Fosse does like a cut where you see her very worried about his state, you know what I mean, about Rashida State in that state in that film. So yeah, I think it's an incredible performance. And then like yeah, I mean Jessica Lange, she's got this incredible presence in that movie too. But then there's two. I would even argue the girl, I don't remember what her name is, that plays his daughter in the film too. She's great.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
She's good
You know what I
too.
mean?
And in ranking, of course.
Yeah, and in ranking, she's great. It's like that scene in the apartment where they're dancing for him and
My
they're putting
favorite
on that
scene in the
little
movie.
show. Oh,
Hmm.
it's so great. But then like yeah, like the closing death number was like where she's like, "You're gonna miss me, Daddy." You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, yeah, it's heartbreaking. How do you not cry during that? So we could literally put four
Yeah.
actresses from all that jazz
I'm
in this
fine with that.
category.
Like whatever. I do like
Yeah.
Veronica Cartwright though. I agree in
Yeah,
Alien. I know this is like the Alien episode,
yeah. Let's
but
Veronica Cartwright, even though it is yet another movie where I just feel like all I ever see Veronica Cartwright do is just break down and cry. It's like
yeah.
that's her entire filmography. Even in The Birds, when she's a kid, she's doing it there.
Hmm.
So, but I do love her dearly in Alien, but I'd also be fine with doing a double up on all that jazz because I think it would be very appropriate given the strength of those performances.
Lang and Palmer.
Yeah,
Is
Yeah,
that how
I'm
you
good
guys
with
want to
I'm
do?
good
All
with
right.
that.
All right. I know
That's what I have
everybody.
written down.
All right. We'll do it. So who are we giving the win to? Are you keeping it with Meryl?
I passionately believe this should be Meryl's first Oscar. This is it would definitely be in my top five supporting actress wins. I think she's fantastic. Despite the writing, she is just, I just believe her in every moment of the movie. I think she is fantastic in the courtroom scene, even those smaller moments at home where she's almost stumbling over her words or working up the courage of what to say. I think is just, it's why we love Meryl Streep. And yeah, I think it's a great win. And again, adding how she helped write some of her dialogue because she had such a good understanding of that character, I think, and wanted it to be even stronger than it was on the page.
Josh?
It is a great performance, but I look. Man, I feel like I put a target on my back when I say to take away an Oscar from Meryl Streep, but
Here we go.
I do think that the writing is a little bit of a stumbling block for me. I'm not gonna lie. And I think that while she elevates it for sure, that is still something about the role I have a little bit of an issue with. And it kind of feels like the performance is great, but it's in service of something that I kind of don't like fundamentally agree with. And so that's sort of, I know it's a weird like outside thing, but it does impede me from like totally giving myself over to that performance, which is why I would actually vote for Palmer, which is another role that, yes, I know there's not like that much there, but I feel like the impression I get from that character just really, it does feel more defined to me, and I like the combative nature that she has with uh you know uh with the Scheider character, and I like that she feels like her own person, but also has this like respect but detest of him as at the same time. And I just find her to be wholly captivating whenever she is on screen. And I give that just a little bit more weight, even though, again, not saying Meryl Streep is bad. She's incredible in the movie, but in terms of who I do personally like a little bit more, I actually do lean towards Palmer.
Oh. Um, See, here's the thing. Um, I would take it away from Meryl, but I also give Meryl like three other Oscars for other films, like Bridges of Madison County, or even Julia. I would consider that. Also, it's like, yeah, the writing for it. I get that she had to recreate her own dialogue and everything, but it's like, she has better performances.
Not
She's
too
Meryl.
many, though. This is high up for her, I think. And plenty of people win Oscars for bad writing
Yeah,
who are
but I
with good
also but I
performances.
also would
Which could
say,
even be something to say like that's something to the performance that they are able to elevate the material that they are given.
I mean, honestly, and this is not a shot at Meryl, but I think Jane Alexander is better in this movie than she is, and I think her performance is fantastic. At least it was for me on this rewatch. I was like, wow, she's incredible in this movie, and it feels like, I mean, she is in the film more. It feels like, and I mean, Palmer is incredible in all that jazz. And when I rewatched it this week, it was one of those, I was sitting back and I'm like, wait, she was nominated, right? Like I don't have to worry, like we don't have to like re-save that or anything. And then I went and I saw it and I was like, okay, come on. This movie, like they loved this movie, but they didn't love this performance. And she is, if you love Scheider's performance as Joe, this is the opposite of that. And they they work so well together, and it's very physical. I mean, obviously she's doing a lot of physicality in this movie, and I just think one of those like, why wasn't she nominated? Why didn't she be in contention? Why didn't she win? And I know why Meryl won. Outside of it being a good performance, she also was like this new discovery from the year before too, with like the Deer Hunter, and it's kind of the momentum of that and the momentum of this and being in those movies and winning so early in her career. It's incredible. And it's the kind of template that we see a lot nowadays when, like, someone young that Hollywood falls in love with, they give them that Oscar, and it's not to, sometimes they give it to them for bad performances, and this is not a bad performance. But I think I'm gonna go with Leland Palmer, like Josh, and I'm gonna give it to this performance that is one of the reasons why I love all that jazz so much. And I think about it all the time. And when we get to her sequences, it is like nobody else really is on screen. It's just her. She's fantastic. So yeah, I'm gonna go Leland Palmer with the Oscar win. So
Okay.
For the
Best act.
record, I still just want to say, I think she's really great in Kramer versus Kramer. I do, but I just have a little bit more passion for Palmer.
Yeah,
And I think Palmer's great and all that jazz too.
yeah.
This is just one of my favorite all-time category wins. So I wanted it to stick, but it's okay.
Best actor: Dustin Hoffman, Kramer versus Kramer. Jack Lemmon, Al Pacino, Roy Scheider, Peter Sellers. It's a pretty great lineup. Um, where you guys leaning here? I have my personal preferences. I think it's kind of easy who gets out of this category.
I think it's kind of easy too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think it's
let's cut Jack Lemmon and Al Pacino.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That was quick. That was easy.
yeah.
Okay.
Um, now
Because the other
you're
three are stellar.
Yes.
I would throw George C. Scott in, um, right?
Yeah.
Easily
Yes.
for hardcore.
I do want to just say though on George C. Scott for a second, I was absolutely I can't even describe my reaction when I found out that Warren Beatty was considered for this role.
how long were you speechless after watching
Just
that
like
movie to
now,
find him?
I don't have the words. I don't know how that
That
works
little
entirely
that
either.
little mustache that he has to
The
wear,
like him
total
disguising
disguises.
himself as like a porn
Porn director.
director, producer.
Yeah.
I can't.
Also, him being like
He's
a
not old
ro-
enough
a
either.
religious dad from like the
Yeah.
Midwest,
He
essentially.
fits
Like,
in the porn industry in the 70s. He does
yeah,
not fit in
he's one of the
Michigan.
guys auditioning, to be in the movie,
Yeah.
not in to like produce it. Like, though he probably would have been able to navigate it a little bit better than like
Yeah.
Scott, who's just like, I I I breathe Ohio. You know what I mean? Like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
It
Like,
is though, it does make it funnier though, like when George C. Scott like wanders into the first sex shop he's ever been in, and he's just like, whoa, okay, I'm gonna find her now. It's time.
that's like it's like the feeling of like showing your parent a really bad you go to an R-rated movie with your parent, and it was like that feeling when I was watching it of like, oh, I shouldn't be here at all. Like excuse me, I walked into the wrong room and like oh my God. But yeah, that performance is it's kind of insane for an actor like Scott to do. Like this is a guy
Mhm.
that was Patton, and now he's like meeting people in the porn industry and going through the seedy underbelly of 1970s Los Angeles. It's fantastic performance. Josh, do you have one that you would consider for this?
To be honest with you, I actually really don't.
Oh,
I because this category was another one where it's like those three I really loved, and then after that, it it got difficult. Um, I mean, I guess one of the guys from La Cage aux Folles, I could do. I do like both of those performances. I'm not like in love with them, to be honest, even though I do like that movie. But I guess between the two, um, the guy that plays Alvin, Michel Serrault,
hmm.
I guess he would be the other one I would consider.
Sophia, what do you think of Burt Reynolds for Starting Over, your favorite movie that you rewatched this past?
I'm gonna say no. I don't think I he wasn't on my list, but if others feel passionately about this, I can support him as a fifth pick.
No, I was kidding. We're
But
not down there.
I honestly would rather keep Lemon or Pacino than like really dig for some of these that I
By the way,
feel are.
I considered Robert Duvall for The Great Santini. That's who I considered. I think he's really good in that movie, and double nom for Duvall. But if we kept one and we didn't use both of our eliminators, um, I would honestly, I would keep Lemon more than I would keep Pacino. Um,
Well,
be,
wasn't didn't
was
Great Santini? He was nominated for the Great Santini.
Oh yeah, it was in 80 then. Gosh
Yes.
darn, these stupid
That's another release
release
thing.
date. God,
Sorry, I was just thinking about
Yeah,
that. I
I
was
was
like,
thinking, I thought he
he
was
had
nominated
that.
for that.
golly. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
The internet's failing me today, guys. I'm sorry.
it's okay. The reason I remember that is just because he's one of the people who, took Donald Sutherland's place.
Yes. Oh,
for
that's
ordinary
well.
people.
Right.
All
So
right. All right. Yeah. We're gonna definitely talk
anyway.
about that next year. Um, Roger Moore for Moonraker? No. Um, William
I
Shatner for the
haven't
Star Trek movie? No.
I haven't
Uh,
seen The Jerk in a while, but I was
oh,
thinking
Steve
about
Martin.
Steve Martin
He's so good
in
in that movie.
that. I really like I remember really liking him in that as a potential
That would be a
option.
fun nominee, actually.
Yeah, I feel like the world went with like Dudley Moore this year for 10 instead of
Hmm.
Steve Martin for The Jerk. Um,
And The Jerk was a really popular movie.
Yeah,
you know what?
let's do it.
Let's do Steve Martin for The Jerk.
Okay.
He's never been
I
Oscar
like it.
nominated.
He's never been Oscar nominated. He's hosted many times. Let's give it to him. All right, so we have C. Scott, we got Martin, Hoffman, Roy Scheider, Peter Sellers. I'm going with Roy Scheider here for all that jazz. It's that movie kind of, I mean, that movie is all about Joe Gideon. It is all about Bob Fosse. It's an insane performance. It's one of the great performances I've ever seen. It's all encompassing. He's incredible. You buy into that complete downward spiral as he is going back and forth in this movie. I mean, that movie is a incredible use of editing, sense of direction, but it is all centered on this just out of control performance from Scheider. And yeah, that's who I would give it to.
Yeah. I I really love like I think Dustin Hoffman like his win is really good. It's not who I would he's not who I would go with, but I do think it's a good win if we're thinking of best actor wins, which is a category where I'm usually less than enthusiastic about who they choose. There are rare exceptions, this past year being one of them. But I would go with Roy Scheider here. I think for me, it really would be between Roy Scheider and Peter Sellers, actually. But I think what Scheider does as Joe Gideon, like capturing this character who is really also Bob Fosse, it is a like full throttle performance to me. And I have always really thought like it's one of the best performances in Fosse's filmography too. And it's just a live wire act and literally too in part of it, but also Roy Scheider smash for me always. Love him.
Josh,
I definitely agree that for me it would be between Roy Scheider or Peter Sellers. I personally lean towards Peter Sellers just
it's a
because
great
I do
performance.
love how quiet and introverted that performance is. And I think it's one of those situations where it's harder than it looks. It is not just somebody who has to stand there and be deadpanned. There is actual, an interiority to that performance that I find to be really compelling and that does tend to impress me just a little bit more. I also tend to think, and this is not a detriment, really to Scheider, but when I watch all that jazz, I do often think the real star of this movie is Bob Fosse. And I think Roy Scheider is a great vessel to communicate that. But I also feel like it does mean that in terms of what I am more impressed with, it is Fosse's direction and just a little bit lesser in terms of his performance. I still think it's wonderful, but it's just not the element that I think is on the most focused display of that film. And that's why I tend to lean then more towards Sellers. But I'm not mad at Roy Scheider winning either, because I do think that's a brilliant performance all the same.
I think they're both two performances also that you're just completely when you think of those actors against the types that you would normally think for him. And Sellers would be my runner up here. I think that's an incredible nomination for the Academy to at least see that he deserved it. I mean, like, yeah, you gave it to the wrong person, supporting actor, but like at least you put him in the five. Like it is a pretty good five. Um, and I agree with Sophia what you were saying. Like I think Hoffman as the real winner is a good winner. I think he's good in the film, and you really buy that relationship with him and Justin Henry, which is kind of at the heart of it. But it's Roy Scheider's win now. And now we have a different divorced couple in the supporting actress and the best actor category. So we just took
Oh
out the
wow, yeah.
Kramers, we put in the Gideons, and I think that
Wow,
that's
that's
okay. You know
true.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So if there's kind of
It's
poetic,
fine.
if that's poetic, I mean, like, I think it's great.
I would still prefer a split, but
Best actress, the or as I like to call it, the Josh Parham category. We have Sally Field, Jill Clayburgh, Jane Fonda, Marsha Mason, and Bette Midler. Who are we taking out?
Marsha Mason.
I mean, I will take your word for
Yes.
it. I did not see chapter 2, so
Next.
yeah.
Next. Um,
I I think then it's for me at least for the next cut between Jill Clayburgh and Jane Fonda. I don't have like I think Sally Field and Bette Midler are the top two. This is just how I view the category, performance wise.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's really just sort of personal preference. I think I lean towards Jane Fonda keeping her, but
Really gonna take out Jill Clayburgh? That's surprising from you.
well, she is my
she's choo-
winner
she's choosing
for an unmarried woman,
Yeah.
which is my
she's choosing
future.
between like her favorites, Claiborne and Fonda right there. I
Oh my
mean,
other. And I love
uh,
Sally Field too.
yeah,
I love the women of the 70s.
yeah. I mean, we don't have to take out all of them, by the way. It's not mandatory.
Well, I do have two replacements that I would
Okay,
like to put in.
okay.
So that's where it gets trickier.
I agree with Mason. I would lean more towards keeping Claiborne over Fonda, and having Fonda be out. Like, as much as I'm not the biggest fan of Norma Ray, like, I understand what Sally Fields is doing in there even. And
She's
Oh,
great.
it's just, yeah, I mean, it's kind of undeniable. Um and then yeah, I'm not getting rid of Bette Miller, not even a chance of that. So I just feel like I love Jane. I think she's doing her best in that movie, but I also feel like
She's doing her best.
she's done that performance though already. It feels so like kind
Yeah.
of kind of like somebody else should have done it. Like so
Faye
I think
Dunaway totally could have done it.
yeah, like
Like
it
it is
feels
one
like
of those, yeah.
one of those where it's like Jane's already covered this territory, and like Faye Dunaway or somebody else could have or Ellen Burstyn could
Y-
have done it. You know what I mean?
Jane
It's like
Fonda, it does like it. I like how it does kind of lean into her in a way that Coming Home kind of does. Like it leans into her activism and her
yeah,
political leanings. Like it's an important role for her in that respect. But I also think, part of the exercise too is like if you guys are, what you said about Meryl having a lot of other great performances, like if we want to think about Jane Fonda in her
yeah.
career, right? Like Clute, They Shoot Horses, Don't They? Right? Like those are higher up there for me than the China Syndrome.
no,
Whereas
for
Jill
sure.
Clayburgh is a staple of the 70s, who I think kind of like she lives in the 70s. Like this is her time. So if we
Yeah.
want to give her another one, I'm okay with
No,
keeping
I
her.
agree. Also, too, like I feel like Kimberly Wells as a character is so written with a naivete to everything going around that like when I watched that movie, I'm like, come on, Jane Fonda could smell, that shit from a mile away. Like, what are we doing here? And you know what I mean? So it's a weird movie. The China Syndrome is a weird movie. And yeah, I just agree with you though. I think Clapper should stay, and it's not a shot at Jane.
No.
It's just, yeah, not the one.
No, that I agree with that. I mean, like I said, I haven't seen Starting Over, but I also feel like Jane Fonda is very well rewarded. I don't want to take anything away from Jill Clayburgh.
Okay.
That's good with me.
All right. Um, who are we replacing her with?
Well, we already
Replacing them with?
mentioned Sigourney.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sigourney, she's got to be here. I just feel like she also like she brings such a great, I think, emotional depth to Ripley as a character, but she also like that is such a physical performance. And in Alien and Aliens, I think like so much of the success of that role and of her as this action star. And I mean, she isn't so much an action star in Alien, that's more with Aliens, but to take her seriously in that role, I think so much of that is what Sigourney brings to it. And I don't know, I feel very empowered every time I watch her in Alien, like just hearing so many people say no to her and her just like stick to her guns and know that she's right and really follow what she knows to be true and stick it out to the end and use her brain to survive, I think is just it's a power that Sigourney brings to that character.
If they had listened to her, they would have been
Mhm.
fine.
Yes.
Especially because Dallas is a terrible captain. This is also the
Ugh,
other thing that is
he's horrible.
a pet peeve of mine. Like Dallas is a horrible, horrible leader.
Hmm.
I agree. She would be a nominee for me
Yeah.
for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, Sigourney Weaver just I know that we are kind of attaching the whole legacy of Alien to this performance too, and I do try to take that into account. But I think even if you separate that out, yeah, the fact that that character, as the movie goes on, you understand she is the smartest one. She is the one who knows really what to do in these situations. And I think that Weaver does a great job to embody that. Like as that movie goes on, you're like, yes, I understand why you have so much power in this role right now, like why it is falling to you, because she brings that screen presence. And I do think, yeah, it's absolutely a great performance, even if you separate the legacy of that character. I think even just on its own, you can still recognize that.
Who we putting on the fifth spot?
Well, it's my time. Diane Keaton for Manhattan. She needs to be here. One of the realizations that I have watching this movie is that I'm really like 60% Annie Hall, 60% or 40%
I would say 60%
Mary.
Annie Hall,
I'll
60%
just
and
be total. Yeah.
yeah, just be
Math doesn't apply
120%.
here. Math doesn't apply when you're Diane Keaton.
No.
But I just realized when I was watching it, I was like, oh my God, I'm turning into this woman. I just have so many opinions and I think everything's overrated without really having much to back it up. So I think that she's she is just a I feel like what she does with this character is so different from what she did in Annie Hall. And I think she understands the dialogue brilliantly. I think she brings so much. Like this character, I think should be completely unlikable. Like you should just kind of detest her from the beginning, but you don't. At least I don't. And I feel like that's the power of Diane Keaton is understanding the sadness and the comedy of the role and also like being that age as a woman in the 70s in New York. I feel like she just gets so well. So that is my impassioned plea for her here.
I'd be fine with that.
I'm not going to argue that.
Yeah.
I already
This is
took,
literally Manhattan playing out. It's just
Yeah.
me just like blah 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 blah. And then okay, that's fine.
I'm not going to take, I feel bad for already taking away Meryl's Oscar for
Yeah.
Leland Power. I'm not going to take this away from you.
It's okay.
Um,
She's
so
not my winner though. I just want her as a nominee.
no, she's in.
Yep.
Diane Keaton's in. Also, Diane Keaton should have more Oscar nominations.
She does.
It's kind
Mhm.
She
of
should have
ridiculous.
3 wins.
3 wins
For me.
for you. Okay.
Something's
Interesting.
got to give Reds and Annie Hall.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Then
Yeah.
that makes sense. Um, who we giving the win to? I kind of feel like it's undeniable for
I
me,
mean, is it?
but yeah, I don't know what
For
you
me, it's
guys.
Bette Midler.
For me, it's Bette Midler. Josh, was it Sigourney Weaver?
I mean, no, I was actually fine with keeping it with Sally
Sally
Field.
Field? Okay.
You know, because I'm going to be honest with you, I don't love The Rose. And it's mainly
Joshua.
because to me, that feels still very much like the kind of musician biopic that we get. Um,
Hmm.
I know it's a fictional character, but it still feels like it does all the same beats, and that is just not that appealing to me. I think Bette Midler is very good in the movie for sure, but I can't it's hard for me to get over just the kind of movie that it is, and therefore the kind of performance that that is too. And I just have such a revulsion to that kind of genre as it is. And yeah, so I would go with Sally Field. I do really like her in that movie. I do really like that win. I think it's a great performance, and I'm not mad at Bette Midler's performance either, and I wouldn't be mad if that was the winner. But I think it's just more so my own personal distaste for the genre itself that I have trouble giving myself over to fully appreciating what she does in the film.
Gotcha.
I get that, but what I will say is like, well, first, I love Sally Field and Norma Ray, and I think it's a great win. I feel though, for me, what Bette Midler does in The Rose, I think should have put a stop to any future biopics in the genre. Because, and I wrote this in my Letterboxd review, but I think it's funny that anyone has tried since this performance, because I do think this is kind of the pinnacle of the music biopic, which it's really not, but it makes
Well, didn't it start as a biopic on somebody?
It's
yes, and
loosely
she's
based off
inspired
of
by Janis
Janis
Joplin,
Joplin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that to me, like it does follow the same beats that we're very familiar with, I think, as this genre has unfortunately taken over the Oscars in many ways. But this is the case, I think, where you see someone, at least for me, like she fully transforms in this role. Like and Bette Midler as an actress is someone who I think when you hear her voice or you think of other roles that she's been in, it's maybe hard to believe that she can actually disappear into a role because she has so many signatures to her. But here I just like I really felt like her pain, her attachment to stardom, her attachment to the music industry so deeply throughout this movie. And it feels like one of those performances to me that it's also just it's crazy that it's her film debut. Like that this was really her first big performance. And yeah, I think it just should have stopped here. She's the last one who's attempted and succeeded in the rock star music biopic genre.
It is funny to say that though it should have stopped here when the very next winner is Sissy Spacek and Coal Miner's Daughter.
Which I still stand where
Oh
I'm
yeah,
still
I think
sticking
she's
with what
great
I
in that
say.
movie too. And I
She
love Bette
is.
Midler in general as well. I've had a fascination with her ever since I was a kid. Seeing Hocus Pocus just
Hmm.
there's also
Oh yeah.
something that for me when I was younger, like if you were an actor and a singer, for some reason that was just like the coolest thing in the world. It's one of the reasons why I also loved David Bowie when I was younger because of
Hmm.
Labyrinth. It's like you're a singer and you're an actor.
You
I don't
can
know, for
do it
some reason
all?
that was just like blew my
Yeah.
mind. So I do love Bette Midler, and I think that she is great in the movie. But yeah, it's just for me, I have those hangups with the film just in general, and I think Sally Field, like to me, Sally Field is one of those situations where we know that everybody loves that performance and it's had a long legacy, and I think that it can be easy to sort of take it for granted a little bit. And you're just like, it's a good Sally Field performance that we know, but I think that she is great in like again, once it's like kind of creating that very captivating screen presence, and you really believe in the mission that she's going for. And I think in a way, it also has some similar like biopic tropes to it, but I just
Hmm.
find that to be just a little bit more effective for me personally than like what The Rose is doing, which if like even though it's a fictional character, like this is the same thing,
Hmm.
and I just have issues with that. But Bette Midler's still good, but I do just really like Sally Field too.
Yeah. I like her too. It's just one of those rare things where like I would actually, if it was making a best actress ranking, Sally Field's win would be very high on that list. I think it's a fantastic
Yeah.
performance. It's just one of those weird years where I happen to think another nominee in the category is better, or I would have preferred the win, I guess.
Yeah.
So just one of those.
But
I
I'm
just,
fine with Bette Midler. Like I'm not mad
yeah,
at it.
I think Sophia said everything I was going to say about Bette Midler's performance. I think it's an incredible performance. I Josh knows I'm on the record. I despise the musical biopic genre and what it's become, but it like this is one of those where you also have to put yourself, I think, in the mindset of when this movie came out and when this movie was and what this performance was. And if you take away then the next, what, 40 years of cinema and or even the next year, right? And you just have to watch it as an isolated film and try to do that, right? We try to do that with all these films, I think. I mean, you're not going to put the baggage of Alien Covenant on Alien for, today's discussion. So you have to like kind of just try to do the best you can with that. And then when I just watch it as a movie, like it's an undeniable, fantastic, all-encompassing performance. Like it is. And with those the looseness of it being based off of Janis Joplin's life, and to kind of see the downward spiral this early on in a debut performance is marvelous. And I think Sally Field gives a really good performance in Norma Ray. It's not to be mean to her. I just think that this is better. A little, just a little bit better. You know what I mean?
I also like Norma Ray as a movie more than
Yeah.
The Rose, so I will fully admit
Yeah.
that is a bias that I have too.
Do you think that Bette Midler's going to revise the role in A Complete Unknown and kind of just show up as a cameo? Like, do you think they should show up as?
I was gonna bring up A Complete Unknown, but I did
Yeah.
see the movie The Fabulous Four, which she is in, and Hollywood needs to write better films for our aging actresses.
That's like your favorite movie of the year, though. What are you talking about?
Sure, yes.
That's like in your
Love
canon.
book club cinema.
That's in your like canon though, like of the book club.
Mhm.
What was the summer camp one from
Summer
earlier?
camp. Oh, summer camp was dreadful. Oh my God, wow.
Josh,
But
have you
again,
watched
I love that Diane Keaton is wearing a full suit at summer camp in North Carolina.
80 for Brady? Right? 80 for Brady. That's the Sally Field,
Sally
Jane
Field.
Fonda, Lily Tomlin. Who's the fourth one in that one?
Sabrina Moreno.
Yeah,
Rita
it's Rita
Moreno.
Moreno. That's who
Who
it
was
is.
very fun in that movie.
I always feel bad for Jay because that was based around the Patriots Super Bowl with the Falcons. And it's just like, oh man, can't even catch a break to go see that. So Bette Midler, our winner, for Best Actress. Sorry, Sally Field. You do still have an Oscar.
She does have another one.
Yeah. That's the other thing too. She does still have an Oscar. Whether we want to replace that down the road, you'll never know. Sophia's just like, yes.
I do really like
okay.
Sally Field.
Yes, I love Sally Field. Like when she was at the Oscars as one of the like 5 people up on the stage this year. I was just like, I would had to remember myself. Oh, that's right. Sally Field's a 2-time winner. And then I was just like, oh, well, isn't that just really nice? And then she gave it
Do you
to
remember who she presented to?
Emma Stone
She's a better 2-time winner than Emma Stone.
on the record.
Yes.
The only one I could remember out of that bunch was Charlize Theron and that bizarre.
Oh my God, so bizarre.
She had to give to Annette
Diane Nyad.
Diane Nyad. I thought Jessica Lange talking about Carey Mulligan was kind of great, and then Carey Mulligan be like, "What the hell?" Like having the same reaction.
Like,
the 3 of us would be like, "Is Jessica Lange talking about me? Like, what the hell's going on right now? Like, this is weird." So
something went up with the Best Actress presentation that I'm not mad at, but it was very odd.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, let's be honest, the only good one they had was supporting actress. That was the only like great one.
Good.
The other ones,
no, I thought actor was really good. Kingsley talking about Cillian Murphy, oh, it was great.
It could have been Daniel Day-Lewis though.
McConaughey talking about Bradley Cooper, wild.
Yeah,
wild.
The
wild
Tom
stuff.
Ford bronzer pipeline.
Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Benton won for we're doing director, by the way. For all the listeners out there, we're still doing a show here.
We're still here.
Yeah, we're still here. Ben won for Kramer versus Kramer, Fosse, Coppola, Yates, more I can't say this name. Can you guys help me?
Molinaro.
Thank you very much. I'm having tongue tied today and only on 1 cup of coffee. Who we taking out? Who we replacing?
Well, clearly Yates we're taking out.
Yeah.
You think so?
Are we sure?
Just judging by the general vibe, I'm guessing that we could
I
take
don't
out
know. It
Peter
kind of
Yates.
feels like our lock for the winner now. Um, I would take Benton out.
I was gonna take Benton out.
I think
Yeah.
it's not a
And I want
real.
to be clear that I think subtle direction should be more
Yeah,
appreciated. I don't think that it
there's
should
good
always
shots
just
in
be
this movie.
these.
You know,
Yeah. And I think that there is a definite skill in directing like small scale drama that a lot of people tend to take for granted. And I do want to mention that I appreciate that skill, but just judged against these other nominees, it is the weakest entry. So I just want to say I like when subtle direction does get nominated, but I think in this case it is one that I would drop.
yeah.
Yeah. Me too.
It's also like I think of the performances and even that up and down screenplay. That's what I think about more than the direction of this film. So, okay, who are we replacing them with?
Josh, do
Well,
you want to do the honors?
well, I mean, obviously Ridley Scott is one of them. Absolutely, like no question.
Who?
hmm
Yes, Ridley Scott. Um,
I would also go Hal Ashby for being there.
Yeah.
That feels
okay.
like a nice five.
God,
All
I
right.
love Hal Ashby.
Me too. Harold and Maude is one of my all-time favorite movies.
I really love Shampoo, which I feel
I
like
do
I'm the only
too.
one who does
No, you
sometimes,
and me
but
both. That is
I
my
love that movie.
election. I watch it every election night. That is my tradition.
You watch Shampoo every election night?
It just feels like a good election eve
Yeah.
movie.
Then Last
Just
Detail is really good too.
oh,
hmm
the last
Yeah.
detail's great. People don't talk about that movie enough. It's one of the more underrated Nicholson performances. Um, I go Ashby there. It's fine.
Yeah. I think that's it. It's Scott and
Yeah.
Ashby.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look and make sure. Okay, yeah.
Well, I mean, the
Uh,
only other one I had thought of was Woody Allen for Manhattan, but
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to, if that's maybe a step too far.
might
I
be.
mean, I
Uh,
would consider like he was on my list, but not above Ashby
Yeah,
or Ridley.
yeah.
I would say the same thing.
I'll go. Yeah. I thought Schrader. Um, there's just some of the way that that movie's directed is wild too. It's really good. But I'll go Ashby and the Riddler. Um, who are we giving the win to?
Okay, this is so hard for me.
Here we go. This is gonna I think be the hardest conversation
Yeah.
Yeah,
that we're gonna
because
have.
like I I love Scott, I love Fosse, and I love Coppola. Like those are like the top three for me, and it's very difficult to pick between them because I love them all, and they're all like very bold pieces and very different, and I love them for different reasons. And it's so hard. Like the space between these three names is like so small. But there's only one movie here that I would say is in my top five of all time. And so because of that, I feel obligated to then pick that person. So I would pick Ridley Scott for Alien. I think the atmosphere, the mood that is created with that film is really down to Ridley Scott. And as much as we did say that the screenplay, yes, is a really big component of that, you can't deny what Scott brought to that material too. And quite honestly, I think Scott also elevated it himself because considering that one of the filmmakers they were almost going to go with was Roger Corman. I think kind of shows
Oh,
you
Yeah.
where maybe this
oh,
could have been heading at a certain point. And I think what Ridley Scott does to create this atmosphere of tension just all the way through to give you this very different image of the future as well that is not pristine and idealized. It's rusted over, it's grungy, it's like like I said, a version of the future that we had not really been accustomed to. Like it's much more pessimistic, and I love that decision. So in a close race, I think I would give the ever so slight edge to Ridley Scott.
It's so funny you said that, Josh, about like your top five favorite films ever, because All That Jazz is that
Yeah,
for
I
me.
figured.
And I think the reason I'm going with Fosse here is just because so many filmmakers have tried to make the movie about their life, about their existence, and this is the best version of that. I think it actually makes any director who tries to do Fellini look silly. Like this is to me the one. And it's just so funny to me when I watch it and it gets better every time for me. It's just like one of the greatest films ever made. And Alien is that for me too. One of the best of all time and very sentimental for me too. But I think what Fosse does with All That Jazz, one, he does predict his own demise in many ways, but he
Yeah.
also has such an extreme sense of self-awareness. And he brings together all of these different areas that where he's worked in his life really flawlessly. And the tone is perfect. The coverage on certain scenes is just, I don't know how he pulled it off still. Like with the Take Off With Us, that scene alone, like, how did
Yeah.
you do that? And then the Everything Old is New Again, that dance sequence between his daughter and Ranking, it's just like
The
that is the
opening to the
most
movie.
emotional, the opening, yeah,
Yeah.
how it's shot and captured and what it says about his life. I it, it just it, he I think he has to be the winner here. And Coppola I think would make a lot of sense too, Ridley Scott, but for me it has to be Fosse.
Fosse is my runner-up. I will
Okay.
say that.
Okay.
It's very, very close between those two.
Yeah.
This is tough. This is really tough. Um, because you guys have made really good points. As
And
you
we
guys,
don't like violently disagree with each other either. That's the
No.
other thing that makes it harder too.
No,
yeah,
and I love Scott's direction in Alien. I think that's also a case of like having limited resources too at the time and really making the most of your circumstances to create something that then changes an entire genre.
I mean, his decision to put his kids in those suits to make the
I
sets
love
look
that
bigger, like
still.
it's incredible.
Hmm.
I mean, this is the problem is that I love all that jazz so much. And I love what Bob Fosse does. This is his best movie. This is his best direction. Sorry to all the cabaret fans out there and Dan Bayer, who, want to try to take away Coppola's wins for the God or try to,
Cabaret's not bad.
yeah,
Let's just get
cabarets,
that on the
yeah.
record though.
Cabaret
Shouldn't have
is
won for
great.
that. Coppola should have won for that. And I'll take that to the grave. Godfather, better movie than Cabaret, easily. Um, but then I think about the fact that Alien is Ridley Scott's best movie. Ridley Scott does not have an Oscar. And it's one of those like frustrating things that we just gave a screenplay win to Alien and he's not going to even win it there. Like, and if we gave Alien Picture, he wouldn't win it there. Uh, but it's like Bob Fosse's win for all that jazz. Like, how do you not give him that is like a movie where it is about him in every
Yeah.
sense of the word. It
And the
is one,
direction is what stands
yeah,
above. Like
it's
I think the
like
direction's what
Which was
makes
my
it,
it.
point against Scheider earlier when I said like the star of all that jazz is Bob Fosse.
though you have to be really excellent in order to like carry out that vessel too, and he is.
A fellow
Um,
cancer like us, Josh, Bob
Yeah.
Fosse.
can't believe I'm going to do this, but yeah, I'm going to give it to Bob Fosse because it's one of those. It's just one of those kind of directorial efforts where you're like, I don't think anyone ever could have done this ever in the history of ever again. I said ever a lot because like it's right. It's one of those where you're just like, how are you able to like keep that all still in your head after everything that happened to you and then be able to express it, come up with new numbers and new things to emulate the things that you already created? And I think that it speaks to then not just the uh quote unquote fictitious version of himself that he created, but it speaks to then the real life person that he's got all this shit going on in his head and it somehow knocks these movies out. And it's a massive film done on a very intimate level. That those dreamlike sequences are incredible. That ending is phenomenal.
That smash cut to the body bag like takes my breath away.
It is
It's
just
unreal.
what
Yeah.
a note. And it's just the again the self awareness to call yourself out and
Hmm.
be able to just say I'm a kind of a piece of shit
Hmm.
and I know that and it's gonna
But I'm a
lead.
genius
I'm a
too.
genius too. I'm a piece of shit. I'm a genius, but that means that I'm gonna probably die soon,
Yeah.
and that's haunting. And
And
it's
thinking of your own death that way, I just like, where do you have to go mentally as an artist? Be like, my death is a song and dance number where everyone is in the crowd
Yeah.
and it's glittering and beautiful, and then smash cut to the body bag. Oh, this is real. And then, yeah,
and
closing
you're like
And
credits.
it's
literally
Everything
such a
felt
down the
as
hallway.
journey.
healing.
Yeah.
It is such a journey to go on in that ending sequence too. Because I remember the first time I watched it, I will admit, had a feeling of like, okay, this is getting a little tedious. Like, why is this
Hmm.
still going on so much? But when I watched it again recently, I was struck with this feeling of like, no, it needs to be this long because this is him coming to terms with it. And eventually it's like, yeah, my life is gone and it's kind of sad, but I'm also kind of greeting it with a song and dance number and having it be so joyful at the same time because that's the kind of person that I am in my final moments of life. And it was so profound. And I mean, I was also stoned when I saw it, so maybe that had something to do with it too, but
Good
it
job.
still
Good.
really impacted me.
I mean, like that.
Wow.
I mean, that line where he's like, where he goes in the crowd and he tells Audrey and he tells his daughter essentially, like, I won't be around to hurt you anymore. And you're just like,
Hmm.
holy shit. The awareness to write a line like that,
Yeah.
especially after, yeah, you've gone through a life essentially where you have hurt so many people. And you're not asking for forgiveness. You're just stating it as, I'm not going to be here anymore to hurt you. And I hope that that relieves you of any of the burden that I've caused you. Um, yeah, it's completely
Yeah,
vulnerable and honest as I think anyone's ever been. Um, yeah, Bob Fosse, all that jazz. Go watch it. It's a good movie.
great movie.
And I'm sorry to the Riddler. Um, maybe when we talk about Blade Runner down the road, who knows? Um, Best Picture. Obviously, we talked about it earlier. Went to Kramer versus Kramer, all that jazz. Apocalypse Now, Breaking Away, and Norma Ray. I mean,
Well, we're cutting Breaking Away.
Yeah.
bummer. Um,
I mean, it sounds like from this group that Norma Ray is also getting cut, even though, again, I like that movie, but
you
I
like it enough to
understand
keep it in
the
Best
reasons
Picture?
for it.
Would you cut
Um,
Kramer instead?
I personally would cut Kramer
Interesting. Well, we
instead,
can cut
but
three, guys. By
yeah,
the way, we don't have to just cut
Let's
two.
do
You
it.
want to cut Norma Ray and Kramer?
I mean, maybe not. That's a lot. I do know that the two I want to keep are All That Jazz and Apocalypse Now.
yes, I do agree with that.
Yeah.
It's just if the other three movies I have as potential write-ins are better than all of them here. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I will say, at least in terms of the other options, maybe we just want to talk about that and determine how many we do want to put in. Like, being there is definitely one for me.
Yeah.
It is one
Hmm.
of my favorite movies that I
An
really wanted
alien is
back.
clearly going in.
Yes,
Yeah.
So
that
that's
too.
two. So then it becomes what would be the third? What would we replace it with? Um, kind of feeling like the like Manhattan would
Yeah,
be
for
that
me
film.
it would, but I
I,
also like don't feel, I guess, passionately enough about it to say Like Kramer versus Kramer, I have my issues with the writing, but I also do have a feeling like I think because my rewatch was better and also just again a domestic drama being the number one movie at the box office, it just does feel like it should be in a Best Picture lineup. But then
Especially for
again,
79. It feels like such a
yeah.
1979 Best Picture
I
nominee.
don't mind
Hmm.
Kramer staying,
Yeah, I'm fine
honestly,
with that
over
too.
Norma Ray because it is,
And it
yeah, and
probably has aged better than Manhattan.
yeah,
Let's be honest.
let's be,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
um,
that is definitely a situation where it's like there were signs.
Yeah.
There were signs
Yeah.
very
there was
early on.
signs.
Ugh.
Um, but yeah, I think we can. Okay, so Kramer, all that jazz, Apocalypse Now, being there, aliens or alien. Sorry,
Alien, yes.
sorry, my bad. Dollar sign. Um, where are we going, folks? I mean, Josh, I kind of know where you're going.
I mean, yeah, it's very similar to the director
Director.
conversation. Alien is one of my all-time favorite movies. I love it dearly. I've been obsessed with it ever since I was a child, and it's hard for me to pick anything else. I do love all that jazz. Also, I think that is an incredible film, but just personally speaking, it's hard to go against decades of admiration that I've had for Alien and choose anything else.
Josh, it's so funny that you were also obsessed as a child. So, for listeners, if you haven't listened to my show, Oscar Wilde, our episode on Alien and Aliens, I told this story, but as a kid, I was so obsessed with Alien and it didn't really make a lot of sense because I hadn't seen the movie at the time, but my dad decided to give me an action figure of the Queen and I would take it with me everywhere. And I would have to go visit the xenomorph at the mall. I was again a very strange kid, but loved it. So I understand you on the decades of admiration. But for me, it's the same as director. It's just like
Yeah,
all that jazz just gets the edge, just because some days, if you ask me what's the greatest movie ever made, I might say all that jazz.
it's hard to argue with it.
Yeah.
This is tough. Can we call it a tie and call it the end of the day? Um, hate being in this position.
But I'm
Um,
okay either way. Like I
Yeah,
will say that. This isn't I
I
love
mean,
both of those
yeah, they're
movies.
two great options.
Yeah.
honestly, I'm kind of for the idea of a split. Um, because if we gave Fosse, I mean, when you think about all that jazz, you just think about Fosse's direction, and those.
Yeah,
And I think about those performances. It's not that I mean, I could literally. It is a coin flip between these two movies because they are both perfect. I mean, Sophia, I read your letterbox review recently of Alien where you watched it on a plane and you told me about it, where this kid was sitting
Oh my
next to you
God.
and he was just like,
I
um,
can tell that
yeah,
story.
say it, yeah.
Yeah. So I was rewatching Alien for another recording and I watched it on a plane and I had it on my laptop and there was this boy sitting next to me who was probably 10 or 11. And you could tell at first that he was trying to hide that he was watching along with me on my computer, but then he just like couldn't really hide it anymore. And I noticed it. It was from the face hugger scene on. So I
mm,
kind of turned my computer a little bit and I put the subtitles on because he didn't have headphones. And he was watching the entire movie along with me. When it ends, he was like, "What were you watching?" Just like that. And I told him, I was like, "Alien. It's this great movie from the 70s." I was like explaining it a little bit to him. And he just says, "That was awesome." And I wanted to cry. I was
oh
like,
my
"Oh my
God.
God. I hope that this kid is gonna go watch this again at home and like it's gonna be some formative experience for him." But it
I
felt just
hope
like,
so. I hope you are a cornerstone in his cinematic journey going
And
forward.
that parent's like,
yeah.
damn it, lady, leave my kid alone.
I know. I wrote it. I had post-it notes in my bag and I wrote it Alien Ridley Scott 1979 and gave it to him.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's like from a movie. It really is.
Hmm.
Oh, I don't know. Let's give it Alien. Shit, or
I'm fine
not.
with the split.
Yeah.
I think a split is good. And I think it makes more sense to do Alien picture, Fosse director
Sure.
than the
Yeah.
other way around.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. It's not to say that all that jazz wouldn't be an excellent Best Picture winner, because
Yeah.
Nor would have Alien been not have been an excellent Best Director winner, you
yeah.
know?
I
Hmm.
mean, like of the real nominees, though, it would be all that jazz, and it's not even close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because like Apocalypse Now is like the fifth or sixth or seventh best Francis Ford Coppola movie. Like it's, I know some people
Well,
out there. I know some people out there. They want to call this like the Stone Cold masterpiece, but it fits firmly in the film bro, sort of canon of movies where I'm just like, I think you guys. I think you guys don't see some of the maybe the problems that this movie has, or
I
don't.
think Apocalypse Now, I still think is a great movie,
It's a good
but I
movie.
also
Yeah,
feel like it is a great movie that is what you would expect from Coppola at that point. Like
correct.
it's exceptional filmmaking, but it's also like the same level of filmmaking that we have seen from him before, and so I just don't feel like maybe it eclipses anything that he has done previously because it just feels like yes, excellent Coppola movie, but it doesn't have the same like novelty that I think he does with the Godfather movies or The Conversation. You know, those feel like
Hmm.
real inventiveness with storytelling and the form of filmmaking. And, Apocalypse Now is, like I said, is excellent. I still think it's really good, but it just feels like a continuation rather than any kind of evolution from Coppola.
Yeah. I think those other three movies you just mentioned, the two first Godfather movies in the conversation, are just miles better than it too, and they're
And
just
I love
movies.
Dracula.
Yeah. Oh, Dracula's great,
Oh, Dracula, yes.
and I love Rumblefish, and I love The Outsiders, and I love even The Rainmaker, which I know is weird, but like that's a great movie, and it's movies I go back to more than Apocalypse Now because I have to watch 600 different versions of that movie to find out which one's the right one, and that's a little bit of a problem as well. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
Aliens are Best Picture winner. Also, like good for us for picking sci-fi, like ahead of
I
like
love it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
This
a
is a
good
good
win.
list we have.
We did a good job, guys. Josh, can you tell everybody where they can find you and all your work on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Letterboxd at JR Parham, and you can also find all my work at Next Best Picture and AwardsWatch.
Josh, what's your favorite event in the Olympics?
Uh, should I say pole vaulting?
You can say it for obvious reasons. When
Although, to be serious though, well, people are also going to accuse me of being a certain way with this too, but I actually do love the diving. And it's not
yeah,
just because of only the body. I do just think that the precision that people have to have in order to pull that off is like kind of mesmerizing to me.
yeah. Sophia, where can we find you and your favorite Olympic event?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Sophia_Sim and Letterboxd at Faye Dunaway, where I watch many 70s movies. You can find my podcast, Oscar Wilde, wherever you find podcasts, and on Twitter, Oscar Wilde Pod. And you can find reviews, interviews, upcoming festival coverage at AwardsWatch. And my favorite Olympic event will always be swimming. I was a swimmer from age 6 all the way through college, coached it for many years too, and just love watching all of the events. Love Katie Ledecky. And the women on Team USA really pulled it out for us with those gold medals, especially Tori Husk. Ugh, so fun to watch.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd at Ryan McQuade 77. You can find all my work here at awardswatch.com. If you like podcasts, we have this little podcast called Director Watch, and we are starting a new series starting this week. It is over the films of Terrence Malick. And so Badlands will be the first film that we will be talking about. And that will drop on Thursdays, iTunes, Spotify, 5-star reviews. Greatly appreciated. Go to the website, sign up for the newsletter. We greatly appreciate that as well. Favorite Olympic event? Well, obviously, it's got to be the breakdancing because well, what the hell is that? So
Yeah.
it's been wild to watch that. But I mean, I think it may not be my favorite because I think like my favorite to actually watch is swimming. But the one that I am in awe of and always will be is gymnastics.
Yeah.
I think gymnastics is the most difficult fucking thing on the planet. And I think Simone Biles is probably the greatest athlete we have currently today. What she is doing is defies logic. And I think that she's incredible. I think Kayla Decky's incredible in what those swimmers are able to kind of do. And it just, yeah, I mean, even like watching the basketball and seeing like LeBron play at like 40 years old, I don't understand how you can be 40 years old and still play like that. Or if you're Steph Curry and you're like 36 and you're able to shoot a basketball like that, I don't understand how these guys do the like the pole vaulting, but then also like the high jump. I don't understand. I don't understand hurdles. Like
Oh
the
my God.
hurdles, just like
Hurdles are crazy.
if you hit one hurdle, you're done. And I
Mhm.
don't know how they're able to do that. Yeah, every year at the Olympics, or every 4 years when they do the Olympics, especially the summer, I am in awe of the athleticism. And then when we get to the winter ones, I'm like, okay, cool, curling. But I can't wait in 4 years. I told Sophia this. I kind of really want to go and experience it a little bit. Because every time it's been around us, I've been super young and I've only been able to experience it on TV. So, and it's provided a lot of enjoyment over the last couple of weeks, especially like also too, it seems like Tom Cruise and all of Hollywood have been out there as well enjoying it. So it's going to be in LA and we're going to have to figure out that traffic situation. But other than that, it should be really interesting to see how it goes in 4 years. And I can't wait for that. Next week on the show, speaking of Alien, next week we're going to be talking about Alien Romulus, the latest film in the Alien franchise. And we're also going to talk about the state of blockbuster filmmaking. And there's been a lot of news over the last couple of weeks with Comic-Con and D23 and all this other stuff. I think it's a little time to maybe have just a little conversation about what we want going forward with films like these. And I believe Josh is going to be on that show with me. And it should be an interesting conversation with a movie like Alien Romulus at the centerpiece of that. So that'll be next week. Thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you all next time.